I now would like to call the February 3rd, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. The Vice Chairman will lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Our most kind and dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight grateful for the opportunity to live in a free country. Lord, we want to ask you to build this board as we make decisions for Person County. Give us the direction that you would want us to have, God. God, we want to thank you for all our first responders, our fire, our EMS, our police, our sheriff's department, everyone that answers that call, God, to keep us all safe. God, we want to thank you for our troops that are watching over us and keeping us safe abroad. God, we ask you just to watch over us. Thank you for giving your son to die on the cross so we may have eternal life. Just go with us, lead us, guide us, and save us. In your heavenly name I do pray. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, Commissioner Wilburn will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First off, can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Members of the board, you have the agenda before you for this meeting. Before I make a motion to accept, I would like to make one change to add Section 8A, the presentation from the tax administrator, to be added in front of the informal comment period. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Having to hear none, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is approved. Item number 5, CD-01-24, a request by the applicant and property owner, Duke Energy Progress, LLC, for conditional district rezoning approval on a 297-acre vacant lot located beside 1700 Dunaway Road, tax map A15304, from R residential to GI general industrial. Do I have a motion to go into the public hearing?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Any discussion? Having hearing none, all in favor on the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We're now in the public hearing. Manager Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Puryear. I would like to recognize Ken Krulik, who is our contractor through the Carr-Tarr Council of Governments. He's a retired planning director and is providing technical assistance to our planning department. Thank you, Mr. Krulik, for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So I apologize for the view. Sorry about that. So yes, right now we're looking at a potential rezoning that's before the board that has been kind of in the works for the last several months. So again, it is CD-0124. I believe that Duke Energy is here also. Yes. So any questions that can be directed to Duke, I defer to them as the experts for their project. So before you, you have just done the overview of what the project is. It's a 297-acre vacant subject property looking to be rezoned from residential to CDGI, Conditional District General Industrial, for the purpose of their hydrogen-capable natural gas combined cycle plant, correct? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So by this slide that you can see, a little fast, you can see the general location for where the property is located. You can see that the existing land use on the subject property is vacant. Existing land uses are consistent and compatible with the adjacent uses. To the west, it's vacant and residential. To the north is vacant. To the east is vacant. To the south is vacant. Parcel is split currently. It is zoned GI on the right and residential on the left. So what they're looking to do is rezone the entire property on the left side or the east side to GI. This is the detailed map that shows the actual property, location for the boundaries, the structures that will be actually part of the whole project, as well as the contours that were actually needed to be added to this particular map at the final review by staff and by myself as the contractor. The property itself, in terms of the rezoning, would actually be consistent with the future land use map for the county, which has that area already designated as industrial. So conditional district rezoning, the applicant's requesting the conditional district rezoning of the property, as I said, from residential to CDGI for the type of plant they're looking at actually expanding. All right, planning staff recommends approval, so your planner that's on staff currently, as well as myself as the contractor, both recommend approval, and that's consistent with the county's land use plan. Planning board meeting January 9th of this year also voted 4-2 to recommend approval of CD 0124. If approved, the board's required to make a statement of consistency with the proposed motion, including the reasonableness and consistency statement that is listed above. So again, if the board decides to go to approve this, they must include this consistency statement as part of the process. And that's the presentation. I'll answer any questions as best I can, as well as also from our reps from Duke.
Does board members have any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes.
I was looking at the map and I know that you said that it's vacant on all sides, but I do know that area, Duke Energy is prominent in that area of the county, of course, and I guess my concern is for the residents who live in that area. I know it's high traffic. I've known personally of just close calls. And I guess my concern is just making sure the residents are safe who live there,
Correct.
as well as I know people hunt out in the area a lot or whatever. I just want to make sure that the residents are safe, their families out there, their children, and I've just seen how the trucks, myself, wide open up and
Of
down the
course.
road in that area, and I guess that's just my concern about the neighborhood itself, the community itself. In regards to rezoning this from residential to industrial. And I just want to know if there are any plans in place, number one, for that. And the other part of that is I know that with, particularly with the energy industry that we have here in this county, where we have our volunteer fire departments. And when these plans are being made and things are put in place, just knowing if they are also included when talking in the event. I know I'm speaking way ahead of in the future, but these are things that come to mind when I look at this. I think about our first responders out in the rural areas, knowing and some not really understanding what's going on with all the changes going around in their community, as well as the people who live in the community and just the high traffic with industry. So, those are my concerns.
Certainly.
As a Person County resident, commissioner, and with family who lives out in that area as well.
Valid points to raise. I'm sure that Duke Energy will take every effort to make sure that all those needs are addressed, and certainly in terms of any kind of traffic studies that are required. But do you want to speak on anything else?
Happy to address a couple of those items. Good evening, Beth Townsend with Duke Energy. We have been working with the school system, the superintendent, to discuss the road that will be on that side of the property. Woodland Elementary is nearby, so we are ensuring that the road will be widened. There will be a turning lane added, and we have already discussed with them that trucks will not flow through that space during drop-off and pickup time for the school, because safety is one of our number one priorities, and we absolutely want to make sure that the folks are safe. I would also add that we have training each year, and we invite local first responders, law enforcement, the police, the sheriff, and fire department to that training to make sure that they are up to date on all of the chemical and information that our plant employees need to be aware of, and so we make sure that they are aware of that as well. And we have direct connections with emergency management, et cetera, to ensure that they have all of the information that we can provide for what's happening at the site, certainly.
Any other questions by board members? Madam Clerk, do we have anyone to speak in favor or for or against?
We have 0 people for in favor, and we have 4 people signed up in opposition.
Okay.
The first speaker is Philip Bentley.
Okay.
Mr. Bentley?
And since it's four people, we'll be very lenient with the time restraint on it.
Yes, sir. Philip Bentley?
Is he present? All right. Calling once. Calling twice. All right. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Julie Nye.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I really didn't want to be the first one speaking in opposition, because I'm still getting over a cold and my brain's not working real well right now. But I'm not in favor of the rezoning. I feel this is just one more example where beautiful residential land in Person County is getting rezoned to industrial purposes, and the residents of Person County are going to be asked to support a project that pollutes their water and their air, doesn't lead to a large number of jobs, ruins the roads, and we just feel railroaded. And I understand that there is a lot of additional stages that will happen between now and then, like the concerns that Antoinetta brought up. But rezoning is really the public's last opportunity to make a statement. This is happening too fast. If you're not willing to turn it down, which I know is not gonna happen, I wish you would at least delay the decision to allow people more time to study it. This afternoon, I tried to get hold of the information from Duke's application, but that part of the website was down. I couldn't even get the agenda for this meeting, let alone Duke's information. And so, I'm just very frustrated, and I hope you will oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Tracy Sexton.
Last week, Inside Climate News reported on January 15th, 10 power utilities, including Duke Energy, sent a letter to the now EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin asking him to weaken environmental regulations over coal ash and natural gas. And let me remind you that these regulations help protect the citizens of Person County who already suffer health consequences from having these plants operate in our midst for decades. We need our air and water protected from toxic chemicals, and you are our primary line of protection. So please do not rubber stamp what Duke Energy asks for, and do not allow them to rush this rezone. Instead, I ask that you hold them accountable in the following ways. 1, prevent Duke Energy from using ash that is on site at the plants for purposes such as landfill cover for new basins, and then let it qualify as a beneficial use. Instead, please make them continue to put all coal ash in lined landfills. 2, require them to monitor their emissions through a third-party representative and make those readings available to the public in real time, and require them to stay below current EPA guidelines. And I say current because they are lobbying hard for the EPA regulation changes. 3, make Duke Energy provide a timeline of when the coal ash plants will be shuttered. This timeline should include a maximum number of months that the coal ash can operate simultaneously with the natural gas plants. This arrangement should also include stiff monetary penalties paid to the county if Duke Energy does not meet these obligations. 4, I also ask the commissioners to keep an eye on the lawsuit the town of Carborough has filed against Duke Energy and consider whether Person County should take a similar route. And 5, I ask that you take a pause and delay this rezoning and promote transparency. Please, Commissioners, we are counting on you to clean up our air and water. You work for us, not a big, powerful lobbying power company. The toxic heavy metals in coal ash are linked to cancer, heart and thyroid disease, reproductive failure, and permanent brain damage in children. I'm sure you know people in our county who suffer from these diseases. Remember their names and their faces as you hold not only Duke Energy, but Enbridge, PSNC, and now Microsoft accountable. Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Ms. Modi.
Good evening. My name is Juhi, and I'm with a group called Appalachian Voices. We support communities with access to clean air and clean water, and have been working alongside folks in Person County who are concerned about the area becoming a sacrifice zone with all the polluting projects proposed for this area. I request that you delay the vote on Duke's application to rezone the land until the public has a proper chance to review the application materials, and we have more information about plans for the Microsoft site, which would connect to plans for the new gas plants. So first off, Duke's application was incomplete at the time the planning board was considering it. And even though the application seems to be complete now, the public has not had enough time to review the materials. One resident I was talking to contacted the Planning Commission, who said that they would send him the application, and he never received it from them. And furthermore, like someone previously mentioned, when I was trying to see the application online today, it was unavailable. The rezoning request is for 2 large natural gas-fired power plants, and we know that Microsoft would be an industrial customer, but we don't know what the site would be used for. And I request that the vote to rezone is delayed until the community actually has transparency and information around what that would be used for. Furthermore, the gas plants would sit just 3/4 of a mile from Woodland Elementary School, and the community that is surrounding the proposed site has already endured nearly 60 years of air pollution from the coal plant, not to mention the groundwater contamination from coal ash and all the adverse health effects that people have experienced in the area because of that. To talk a little bit about the health impacts that people are experiencing now, the area near the proposed site of the gas plants is in the 97th percentile nationwide for infant mortality, 95th for child mortality, and 90th for babies born at a low birth weight. The area also has high rates of stroke, cancer, chronic heart disease, and COPD. Because the area doesn't have sufficient access to gas, a new high-pressure 30 to 36-inch wide, 45-mile natural gas pipeline would need to be built. This pipeline, called the T15 pipeline, would be operated by Enbridge, which is a Canadian multinational company which has a concerning safety record. And the proposed route for the pipeline would run through acres of farmland, potentially damaging soil quality and reducing crop yields. The pipeline would run just 600 feet from Woodland Elementary School, putting children ages 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the blast zone, which is the area in which, if there were to be an explosion or an accident, they would be deeply in harm's way. Also, there would be a bend in the pipeline near the school, creating an even more hazardous segment of the pipeline. Before rezoning, Duke and Enbridge would need to work to reroute the pipeline away from Woodland. The last thing I'll mention is that Duke Energy's gas plants are part of a plan that could raise all of our electric bills, whether you're a Duke Energy customer or a Piedmont customer. Duke itself has estimated that our electric rates could increase from nearly 40 to nearly 70% if their plans for this gas plant, along with other gas plants across the state, do go through. So I hope that you will consider all those factors and prioritize the need for transparency and accountability and delay the vote for the rezoning. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our speaking portion for the public hearing.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Right. Any discussion? Haven't heard none?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
So she made a statement that all the information the applicant wasn't complete when they started the application.
Yes, sir.
At what time frame did that application become complete? Do we know that information?
So at the time of the January 9th meeting, planning board approved it with the condition of finding the information to get it complete. So since January 9th, that information has been submitted. A complete application is on file in the planning department, as well as the complete map that was required to be added with added detail.
So is there a time frame do we normally have for the public to access that information typically?
So it was included in the agenda packet, which was posted Tuesday. We
Okay.
post our agenda packets on the Tuesday before the meeting. And I've heard that a couple of people had trouble accessing it on the website today, so I'll find out if there was a problem with it this afternoon. I pulled it up this morning, so I don't know if something happened after that, but it has been posted, including that map, since Tuesday afternoon.
I think it's essential that we keep this project going, and I mean, Duke Energy is essential to keeping this town going. They're our number one taxpayer. We have a room full of people because of their taxes. If we lose Duke Energy, you'll be down at Sandsbury because you don't be able to afford to live here. So we need to.
I think you're incorrect. Everybody here is a taxpayer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
You don't vote tax dollars, you vote for you in person.
Yes.
There's more of us than Duke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
So I've got one more question. So, the other young lady brought up, concerns she had, like, to make sure that they address certain issues. I'm sorry. She spoke up, bringing up certain concerns to make sure certain things were being taken care of and certain, deadlines were being met and criteria were being met. Can we make sure those things will be in place, even if we approve this?
So much of that is regulated at the state and federal levels. There are certain county processes that have to be followed, such as this conditional district rezoning, and we will ensure and continue to work with Duke Energy on ensuring they meet those requirements. There are separate layers at other governmental entities that they must comply with, and they will be held accountable to that through those entities.
Mr. Chairman, let me make sure I understand where we are in the meeting. So there was a motion to close.
We're still in the public hearing.
Okay, so there was a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, are you calling the question?
No, I'm just asking, is this discussion more appropriate after a motion?
Well, you would have access to the speakers under the public hearing while we're still in it, if there's any questions for the presenters.
Okay.
All right,
My question's been answered.
okay. We have a motion to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Ma'am?
You know, I'm not on the list, but, what are you doing for the families and the children? We haven't known what you're doing for them, or Duke is doing to protect them. What are you doing?
All right, all in favor of the motion, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion's approved. It has not been, the public hearing has been closed. So, given a light, you've heard some concerns, obviously, regarding that, and understand that there were some technical issues of accessing the information, and we want to be as transparent as completely possible. I would entertain a motion to table this until our next meeting for further discussion.
I also move to table this.
Okay? We have a motion to table this. All right? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, 4-1. Thank you. All right. So we have tabled it, so we are moving from, there's no consideration of grant or deny since it's tabled. At this time, we did move item 8A, 2025 reappraisal update. Russell Jones. And Russell, before you begin, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I have a few remarks that I'd like to make before you make your presentation, Russell. Although Person County is significantly smaller in terms of population, business, and industry than more urban areas throughout the state, and there are many county departments in Person County government to take care of people's businesses. The county commissioners are assigned the responsibility of overall governance of the county. The county attempts to find the best available candidates to serve in the management positions for each of these departments. They are assigned the duties of ensuring that the department is running smoothly and operating in the best interest of the citizens of Person County. From time to time, situations arise in a department where it becomes necessary for the board to take steps to evaluate the effectiveness and reliability of the services being provided. At this time, at times, and this is one of those times, the board must insert itself being more involved in a department. The tax office has recently completed the 4-year cycle of real property revaluation in Person County. Those of you that are here and those of you from who this board has received countless phone calls, messages, and personal visits concerning the resultant values, some of which appear to be overwhelming, you have questions, and so does this board. We are not here to convince you that everything is okay and that everything is fine with the reevaluation. On the contrary, tonight we are in agreement with you that there are issues that must be addressed and must be corrected. We're asking you and all the taxpayers in Person County to understand this is not the end. This is the beginning of a full review of tax office operations and how values are determined and how and why adjustments are made and who makes these decisions. I know that all of you here have concerns or problems with the tax notices you have received. There are a few things that the commissioners would like to request that you do in order to help you, this board, and the tax department to address any issues you may have. Number one, go to the county tax office and request a printout of your detailed tax card for this year's reevaluation, and also the printout for previous values. Number two, put the two printouts side by side and make notes on any differences you see between the two tax cards. 3, if there's substantial differences in the details or the tax values being excessive, share these cards with someone you trust, such as your accountant or CPA. Person County has over 50 licensed real estate brokers. Discuss your concerns with them. They are independent real estate appraisers in this county and surrounding counties that work in Person County on a regular basis. Consult with one of them. 2 sets of eyes are always better than one. And number 4, if you feel that the tax value or the information found on your tax card is incorrect, submit an appeal application before March 1st, 2025. Please note this appeal application does not have to be completed in full by March 1st, but just send in the appeal request so you can be heard. And finally, understand that the appeals process will not be you versus the tax office. There's another group of people, Person County residents, most of you may know, who have agreed to serve on a board called Equalization and Review. This board is made up of taxpayers and property owners just like you. You will be heard by this group, and at the conclusion of the appeals process, the Board of Equalization and Review finds that there are errors, omissions, miscalculations, or incorrect data in the assessment of your property. This board can and will assist you in correcting this problem. Let me make 2 more points before we begin. Russell, before you make your presentation, you are the tax administrator for the county. All the eyes in this room are on you right now. And all the ears will be paying close attention to what you will be saying. You are not addressing this board, you are addressing the citizens of Person County. You work for them, they are your employer. Speaking for myself, I've been a county commissioner for 18 years. I have been through 3 previous tax evaluations. This is the 4th. And this is like no other that I have ever experienced. The board recognizes that there's a wide variety of emotions in this room this evening. They range from despair, sadness, anger, to even a feel of hopelessness. None of your problems or concerns will be resolved tonight, but the board wants you to know that we will listen to every word you say, and those representatives from the tax office will hear every word you have to say, and you as taxpayers, regardless of how you may have felt in the past, can be assured that you will be given full consideration that you deserve and you should expect. Thank you. Russell.
This is similar to the presentation I gave to the board back in November when we were adopting the schedule of values.
Can you bring the mic closer?
Is that better? Okay. And yes, this reappraisal is unlike any you've ever seen, as is the real estate market. For example, Caswell County did a reappraisal last year. Their average increase was 42%.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just ask for everyone to remain patient and let the speaker make his presentation without interruption. Thank you.
Granville County did a reappraisal last year. I won't take much time talking about other counties. Their increase was 77%. Warren County is doing a reappraisal this year. Theirs is looking at 80%. Orange County, Durham County are both doing reappraisals this year. They're much different in person. We don't use anything they do there, but I could not get their numbers. That just kind of sets the stage of what things are selling for today, and I'll explain how the reappraisal process works. So we have to value all the property and all the real property at true, full market value. That means North Carolina is a 100% assessment state. Some states allow you to value some properties at less than market. North Carolina is not like that. It makes it very fair. So the property we reappraise is vacant land, residential property, and commercial industrial properties. What we don't reappraise when we do a reappraisal is personal property. Personal property like your cars is probably the best example, or your business equipment, and state appraised. So state appraised, which is your power plants, your gas lines, your railroads, your phone companies, they're reappraised every year at 100% of market value. So therein lies the problem. So we're appraising real estate for everyone every 4 years or 8 years, and we're appraising the state every year. So that creates some inequity. So the reason reappraisals that are required by general statute, equity, uniformity, to update depreciation schedules, and to prevent loss of revenue from state appraised. That fifth one is probably the most important slide as far as revenues from this public utilities, and I'll explain that better. Talking about the cycle, in 1984, Person County was on an 8-year cycle, and we always did it every 8 years. They passed a law in 1988 that said if you are less than 90% of market, so things are selling at 10% higher than your tax appraisal, you have to give all state utilities that same percent off. So in 1989, I jumped too far on my notes. In 1988, right after that law went into effect, we were valuing properties at 72.27% of value. We lost 27.73% of our value to Duke Progress and all the other state appraised. We would have gotten $4.6 million in revenues from them, and back in 1988, that was probably similar to what we get today. We lost $1.3 million because we were late doing a reappraisal. And I'll tell you what it would look like this year if we had done the same thing. Other things, equity, all the reappraisal is all about equity, making sure that if you have one part of town that's growing faster, one part of the county growing faster than another in values, that everybody's 100%. So you may have one area that's appreciating faster than other parts. So equity brings everybody back to that 100% ratio that's required. Uniformity is just a simple statement saying if you are charging extra for, bathrooms in a single wide, you should charge extra for bathrooms in a stick-built home. That's all uniformity is, treating all properties similar. And then the only time you can recognize depreciation of properties, the age of properties, is doing a reappraisal. So once you start a reappraisal, the depreciation doesn't change until the next reappraisal. So loss of revenues to public utilities. So when we were talking about doing a 4-year reappraisal, we did skip 2 over the years. We skipped one in 2017, and we skipped one in 2009. The reason we skipped those was because the market was pretty quiet. We were still way over that 90% required by law. We weren't going to lose any money to state appraised. But we knew the real estate market was different this time. If we had not done a reappraisal this year with our sales ratio is looking at what things are selling for and what you have them appraised at, we were at 65%. 65% means 35% low. The county would have lost $2.5 million to state appraised. That would equate it to a 5-cent tax increase. So without doing a reappraisal, your taxes were going up. Also last year, in anticipation of the reappraisal, we shored up the budget instead of doing a 3-cent tax increase with some money out of fund balance. So we were looking forward to this reappraisal to kind of make up for that, and we also protected that $2.5 million loss that we would have had. Now, where do the values come from? So we have to do true market value. So we're looking at what people are buying and selling stuff for. And that's a true market sale. It's not ever including foreclosures. It's not including direct distress sales. It usually includes only properties that are listed for sale through MLS. So it's not someone giving their friend a deal. And it's a willing buyer, willing seller. So people who know all about the properties and they're willing to pay a certain price. So who's actually setting the market value? Well, it's the taxpayers. It's the buyers and sellers in the county. We talked about what Granville County did, what Warren County did, but these are all based on sales in Person County. We never use a sale outside. So taxpayers are setting the new values. And probably a lot of people say my house is not for sale, but if it was, you would get a different price today than you did in 21, the last reappraisal. So schedule values is simply a book of lots of numbers that makes sure that our appraisers can appraise properties down the road of properties change and remember what the 2025 market was. So if you build a house next year, they will build it based on the 2025 cost, 25 labor and materials. And this shows the sales. So we had about 1,500 sales in the last 2 years. And of course, it doesn't show all the green dots, but you can see there's a lot of sales right in the city limits. There's a lot on HICO, a lot in the city in the county. So we looked at all these sales, and we throw out the ones that aren't arm's length. So these are only arm's length sales. This on
Ladies and gentlemen, I will address, can you repeat that? But please refrain from interruption.
Can everybody hear me? Cannot? So I'm going to try to describe arm's length transaction. So that is that willing buyer, willing seller, neither under duress, so no one influenced to buy that one property, or no one pushing to make you buy it, or want to sell it cheap just to get rid of it. So it's a true market sale. It's what an average person would pay for something if they know all about the property. They're not being, they don't buy something that they don't know what they're buying. So that's your arm's length transaction. I hope that's a better definition, and I'll try to slow down a little bit. Your sales ratio is simply your assessed value from 21 divided by your current sales price. That's how we knew that we were 35% low. Median midpoint is taking that assessed value divided by sales price, and the middle of that is that 65%. Midpoint and mean are very similar. Mean is the average, but we use the median. Price-related differential is another term we use, a PRD. That's a measure to make sure you're treating your high-end properties and your low-end properties the same way. You don't want to be overcharging the low-end properties and undercharging the high-end, or vice versa. COD, a coefficient of dispersion, is a big word, but it measures the bell curve, kind of like in your school days when you had a grading system that was based on averages. So you want your coefficient of dispersion to be a bell curve, and you want your outliers, the one that sold for much different, to be very, very small. So when we did our reappraisal measures and we used the new schedule of values that was duly adopted in November, we looked at what the new schedule would do and what the old schedule was doing. So to use the new schedule, instead of being 68, that number changed to 65 after November, December. The new schedule was giving us 99.83, so we were at market. We should be right at 100%. Our PRD measure, are we treating high-end properties, low-end properties fairly? You want a 1 there. That's the perfect answer, is a 1. A 1.01 is all but perfect. Your COD, how many outliers do you have? How tight are the sales? We're at a 6. We were at a 23, which meant we had a lot of properties that were selling for much higher, much lower, so the reappraisal is fixing that. And I got similar slides for the city of Roxborough that shows similar numbers. And I'm gonna fly through these just to, for time, sake of time. 99.8 is Mount Tirzah. You see the vacant properties were right at 100%. That PRD again being 1. This is probably the most interesting slide as far as values. After COVID, people decided that they wanted a large tract of land to build their house on. A 10-acre tract in Person County during 2021 would have been valued at around $35,000. They're paying $100,000 today for that same tract. And that is where a lot of your increase is. We've never had sales of large tracts of land in Person County in my tenure, and I've been doing this job since 1998. So that we have to do what the market is doing. And the market says, I want a house on 15 acres of land, and I'm willing to pay dear money to do it. That's where a lot of your increase is coming from. Hyco Lake's another hot topic always. You look at where we're at 64%. It's very similar to the rest of the county. So, but you know, going up 54% on Hyco Lake is going up from a higher number, but it's still in the right range. Mayo, very similar again. And I got some sales that shows what houses did, and I picked these just to give a sample of different spots in the county. So this one is an older subdivision in this right outside the city limits. In 21, tax value was $275. And 25 is $388. It sold for $375 mid-2024. So that shows that we were 73%. We were low on that one. And that's the story for all the properties in the county. So I'm gonna flip through a few more just to give you some examples. A newer house, old value was $236, but it sold for $345. Another house, now I've got tons of houses, as you can imagine. But I tried to capture a house in every township. I tried to capture some vacant land in the city, not in the city, old house or renovated house. And you'll see those. This is the old house that was renovated, and it sold for $264. The old value was $203. Old value was $131. It sold twice, which gives you increase, shows you that it's increasing and increasing again. So it's still on the climb, about 5% a year. This is a brand new house using the old schedules. We were going to be at 135. We were at 135,000, but it sold for $215. An old house that had some minor renovations was valued at just under $53,000. Sold for $110, and that is a very old house. That's in the 1940s. A brand new house, basic entry-level construction. The old value, $170. Even though it's a brand new house, we used the old schedules from 21. Shows that one it sold for $218. We came in a little high on that one, but it sold 2 years ago. So that shows the market's still increasing. This is Hyco Lake. We had a value of $110. It sold for $215. We have a value of $217. But then after that, they've added another boathouse. Now we're at $313. So that shows Hyco Lake is going up tremendously also. A lot that was $110 sold for $215 without that boathouse. Just another sale. This one is on the lake. This is an improved house on the lake. Sold for $1 million we were at 574. Now we're just under a million, so it shows that the schedule does work, and it shows that the market is different than it was in 2021. This is a vacant lot on the lake. I think it has a boathouse. That one sold, we had Old Bay at 271. It sold for 375, but it previously sold for 240, and then sold for 398. This other one sold 3 times. We're at 391. So again, the schedule works. House has been renovated. It's the same story. This is a Mayo lot that's vacant. Or is it? That's just a vacant lot in the middle of nowhere. That was $7,500 in 2018. Then we had to appraise it at $9,400, and it sold for $37,000. Another vacant sale, and you can see all the same story. All of them, everything's just increasing tremendously. That one was at $51,000. The land's over $162. That's your 300% increase that you're seeing on land. So the next step in the reappraisal processes, so we're past this slide now. The schedule's been adopted. Most people have gotten their notice. I think everybody's gotten their notice at this point. We're starting to receive the appeals. A appeal form was mailed to you. It's got some great information. Let us know what about the property we don't know. So we do a mass appraisal. The standard is we make sure the house is there, make sure it's being maintained correctly, check the depreciation. If it's in poor condition, we would apply additional depreciation. But we're seeing it from the road unless we have to get out and measure something that was added. So if there's something about your house that you say, there's no way they knew this from the road. I was talking to a gentleman before the meeting. His floor is completely out in his house. It's an extra home he's kind of sort of working on, but it's got a dirt floor. When you walk open the door, all the joists are gone. We didn't know that. That's a valid appeal. We'll fix that. Most of the appeals should be handled in the informal process. It makes it easier on everybody. Tell us what we missed. We'll send you a letter after we go through those, and then you'll have plenty of time to talk to the board if you want to go that route. If you think that something we missed. But yeah, to give us all the information you can, because we want them right, and we know that we didn't get them all right. No county's ever got them all right, and the taxpayer is considered an expert on their property. They know a lot about their property. They may not know the value. They might. But they know things about the house that I don't know. We had an elderly person in for a leaking roof. We didn't know that roof was leaking from the outside. There's no way any of us would have known that. We fix things like that right away. So March 1st is the deadline to get in for more appeals. We should have the notices back out to you by the end of March. We're setting the Board of Equalization Review tonight. They will decide when they're going to meet, but I'm anticipating that they will accept appeals at their level during the month of April. So anybody who appeals will get a letter saying this is your different value, or the same value, or higher value possibly. And then you have a right to get your stuff together so you can appeal for the board. They're going to want some stuff in writing. It's a little more formal, but it's still a very nice board. Your neighbors are on that board. So a couple other resources I want to share with you. The local newspaper, and thanks to all the staff of the Courier Times, did an awesome article. It was about 3 pages long, describing the reappraisal process. I was very proud to sit down, and we talked about 2 hours, and we went over the process. They covered some things that my fast talking doesn't cover. You can read it and read it. The last Thursday's paper is very, very informative. There's also a WRL video. It's called, look up WRL On the Record, Tax Reappraisal. They talk a lot about Johnston County, but it's the same laws that North Carolina does to every county. And it explains the process. It explains the budgeting process. It explains how it all fits together. I couldn't have done a better job of that. I would like to address a couple of things I've seen on social media about the reappraisal. And it just provides some clarity. So I've heard the comment that Mariah Industries in the MEC is not paying property taxes. Because you pull up their tax card, it shows a zero value. Those properties are the state appraised we talked about. So those numbers, their appraisal is delivered to Person County. We do not put that on the website, not because it's not public, but they have more than one parcel. I wouldn't know what number to put where. But for this past year, that value for that new Mariah Center was $12,470,373. They paid $90,000 in taxes based on January 1st of 2024. That's going to go up. There was nothing there. That's just on the dirt and their engineering and planning that they had done. So we anticipate that going up. The Mariah Energy Center, I know there's a lot of people who were under the belief that prices would go down around that. We have carefully watched the sales to make sure if it were, we could capture that. I haven't seen a single sale affected by the Mariah Energy Center there. I didn't know that was going to be the case, but there's a ton of those 10-acre lots we're talking that sold for three times the money, $100,000 for 10 acres. We had a 400-acre sale for $2 million, less than 3 miles away, and they knew the Mariah Energy was coming, so that didn't bother them. So that's some good information. On the tax card, if you notice, a lot of the tax cards have your bedrooms listed as 0. We didn't capture that information until recently. We don't value your house based on bedrooms, so if you show bedrooms as 0, we'd like to have that fixed, but let's not do it during the appeals process because we're going to be bombarded with paperwork anyway. What does affect it is square footage. Whether the upstairs is finished, make sure that we have that correct. You have a basement, make sure it's finished, bathroom counts. If you tore a building down, we tried to capture that. We used pictometry, which is electronic imaging. We took a lot of buildings away that we knew were gone. If you see a building listed on your tax card, look over and see if it has a 0 value. A 0 value tells us we're going to see it on the flyover. We're going to think it's there. And I don't want to send an appraiser there 10 times to verify that 10 roofs that's laying on the ground has a 0 value. So we went ahead and valued it at 0, so we know. We don't want to take them off, but it's not changing your tax bill. Any additional questions I can answer for the board?
At this time, with the privilege of the board, I do have a few questions, but I would like to hear from the informal comments first before we begin asking questions to the tax administrator. Is the board comfortable with proceeding with the informal comment period and then following back up and have the tax administrator come back for us for any questions that we may have?
Mr. Chairman, there's one process I'd like to ask him to explain.
Sure.
So I was reading through the general statutes over the weekend related to the appraisal process and your authority and that kind of thing. And also, I believe there's a duty of the citizen each year to list. Can you explain what that is? Because I remember as a young property owner, we used to get something in the mail, and I think that was more about personal property. And then when DMV started sending out things related to vehicles, I think a lot of counties stopped mailing out those listing forms. And I think now some have started back because of situations like this where you talked about a demo, and technically it's incumbent upon me as a property owner at some point to let you know that my property has changed. So if you can speak to that.
Required to report all changes to real property in the month of January every year. All changes would be any additions, any changes, any demolitions. Most of those are captured if you do get a building permit. But if you don't get a building permit, we don't know it's there. So yes, all citizens are required by law to report, I changed this on my real property. I added a storage building. I tore a building down. I improved my property. People don't do that, but it's required by law. So that would help out, make my job a lot easier if people self-reported that, hey, I added a storage building. And some people do. They will tell you they put a new roof on, new windows, did a renovation. A lot won't. So that does make our data difficult to maintain. The more we know about your property, the fairer it's going to be. If you have a house and your neighbor's house is very similar, and your neighbor decides he's going to sell his house, and he remodels his house and doesn't get a permit, and he'll sell for $100,000 more than yours did, if I don't investigate using something like MLS or somehow along the way figure out why that house next door sold for more, I'm going to think that your house went up that much. So we are struggling to find good data. Every permit that comes through, we're looking at those permits. We're using every tool we can to figure out why that other house sold for so much more money. Sometimes we were just low. But a lot of times there were some remodels done, and we try to capture those to be fair to everybody. We don't want to raise your house because your neighbor remodeled his and sold it. And we do a great job of capturing those.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner, at this, right now, or can we
I
proceed?
just guess we would ask Russell to stay, in case there's questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So now we begin into our informal comment period. Madam Clerk, how many do we have signed up for informal comments?
We have
15. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in 2013, the Board of Commissioners held an informal public hearing to receive feedback for that particular reevaluation at their regular meeting. I would like to do the same thing tonight and treat the comment period just as that. I will be waiving the 10-minute rule so that everyone that would like to speak will have the time and opportunity to speak. There will be no timer. There will be no buzzer. I will ask that anyone speaking be respectful of the time that they use and know that there are other speakers waiting. At the 5-minute mark, if a speaker is still on his topic, I will give a general reminder to the speaker on how long they have been speaking, but will not stop. This is a listening session for the commissioners, and there will be no dialogue between the speaker or the Board of Commissioners. When speaking, please address the board only, not the audience. Also address the board as a whole, not individual commissioners. If a speaker does not follow these rules of procedure, they will be given a warning. If it happens the second time, they will be asked to return to their seat. I ask the audience listening to avoid side conversations so that the speaker will not be distracted. This board is dedicated to hearing your concerns, and we truly appreciate everyone being here tonight. Before we begin, I will ask, has everyone had the opportunity that would like to speak, the opportunity to sign up? Okay, gentlemen? All right. Sir, if you want to come up here and sign your name, we definitely want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak if they desire to do so. While we're having other people sign up, the county attorney has a comment to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been asked to talk about the other piece of the tax process. So Mr. Jones has talked to you about the reappraisal process, but remember there's also the tax rate. And as you may or may not know, the board cannot simply throw out reappraisal values. The county has gone through a process, and the chairman and Mr. Jones have talked about the appeals process, and that's how that is addressed. However, the tax rate is something that the board has control over. However, as Chairman Puryear has said, it is not something that can be acted on tonight. Tonight is a listening session. By state law, the only time that the board can change the property tax rate is when they adopt the annual budget. For the folks in the audience and also for our board members, Person County's fiscal year, as every other county in the state, operates from July 1 of each year to June 30th of each year. So we are in the middle of budget season right now. County staff have started working with county commissioners to come up with a proposed budget. In a few weeks, maybe in a few months, when the draft budget is ready, it will become a public record. Anybody can come and take a look at it, and I encourage you to do that. And then sometime in May, in June at the latest, maybe as early as April, the County Board of Commissioners will have a hearing on the budget that's required by state law. That's a public hearing where you will have the opportunity to come in and express your concerns again, and I encourage you to do so. And then after the public hearing, and only after the public hearing, but before July 1, the board will vote on the budget. And at that time, they could choose to lower the tax rate, raise the tax rate, or leave it the same. So I want you all to stay involved and want to make sure you understood this piece of the process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, will you call the first speaker?
The first speaker we have is Larry Howell.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm Larry Howell. I'm a resident of 137 Roxdale Place here in Durham. Roxborough, I'm sorry. I have lived in Durham for 48 years and I retired here in 2001. It's a habit. Please forgive me. And if it's any consolation to all you Roxborough people, the reason I moved here is because I grew up in Johnson County on a farm. These people are the kind of people I grew up with. I like these kind of people. I respect these kind of people. They're honest, hardworking people, and I am glad that I moved here. And I hope I don't have to come in front of this august body again, but if it's any consolation to Mr. Jones, I will not dispute the value you put on my home. I will tell you, it took all the money I made on that sale in Durham to pay for the renovations for it, and I broke even, but I'm happy with it. But I will complain about the value for a piece of land. It's 9.8 acres on Gentry Dunkley Road. I don't think there are any major shopping centers going to be built out in that area. It's completely unimproved. The reason I have that property is because I was originally going to build my home on that property because it's adjacent to property owned by my daughter and son-in-law. And it didn't work out, so I got a house on Roxdale Place and have kept this property vacant. Now, in 2020, I paid $35,000 for that piece of property. Tax value in 2020 was $17,756. Tax value 2021 was $21,929. This valuation, $99,812. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a hard time explaining how property grows that fast in 5 years. Now, I'm not just beefing off about this. I know you want to hear facts to validate the reason I complain about it. I'm holding in my hand 30 contract offers I have received since I got that piece of property. The average from 2022 to 2025 is $41,635. The lowest was, well, let me see, what do we got? $24,970, and the highest was $55,917. I think you can appreciate why I question this evaluation. In 5 years, and it goes to that much of amount, I know you have appraisals that you have to do, and I just want you to be fair. There are a lot, I am on a fixed income now. I am 77 years old. When I get a statement like this that in big red letters says, you cannot appeal your property value based on percent of increase or your ability to pay the anticipated tax, there are a lot of retired people like me who are looking at that with a little question mark. Amen. Amen. Now, what I would like to add to this, the article in the paper was very well done. I read that. I understand the process that's going on here. I also appreciate the fact that the bottom line is the tax rate and what we're going to be sent to pay in taxes come September. When you send a letter out this with big red letters in it like that, why don't you send a little note with it too that this is not the end of the day on this, that the tax rate is going to be involved in this and we will come down to a more realistic figure later. And I'm going to end this because I know there are a lot of other people who want to speak on this issue, but I'm not so much concerned about myself, ladies and gentlemen. I'm concerned about the young people in this world, in this county. All the young people I know of, including my own son-in-law and daughter, they're both working to make ends meet. young people don't have, most of them don't have generational wealth to even get a house to start with. How are they going to afford to buy a home based on these inflated values? And also considering, in fact, how many good paying jobs are out there to help these young people, considering that Driveline just shut down and 247 people are out of work in this county. How much?
5 minutes, sir.
Okay, but I'm gonna quit. That's all I wanna say.
Peyton Humphreys.
Not much I can say after he spoke. I agree with what he's saying. I agree with completely what he's saying, what he said. I got him by age. I turned 80 years old back in November. And I'm proud to be here, but I do have some problems. I found out if I got here tonight, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
After I got here tonight, I found out we wouldn't have any answers. And so that messed up my plan. I had a lot of questions I want to ask, and so I'm still going to ask my questions, even though I have no answers, and I hope you all know where I'm coming from.
Yes, sir.
The first question I had was, how were these evaluations concluded? And I've watched Russell a while ago, and so I have a little more idea. And then, will the tax per $100 be reduced? And the next question, who sets the tax rate for the county? And I think I found out it's you all. And so it's up to you all to make the decision. I hope you make the right decision, because it's something concerning me. The other thing, I think if we kept the same tax rate, if we didn't, it would affect the economy. And I'll give you an example. I think about myself, fixed income, other people also. And for an example, last year my tax was over $4,000. I thought that was high, but then I get the appraisal, and it jumped to, if I figured correctly, I got an 80% increase. That'll make it over $7,000 for this year. I had an increase of over $400,000. That's a big jump from one year to next. Actually, it was way over 400,000 increase. And for an example, if you take you on a fixed income, and where you feel comfortable, and you go out to eat and you do other things that's unnecessary. Well, if your rate goes up, you might have cut out some of that, and that's going to affect the economy here in the county, because people can't afford to have high tax and enjoy the lifestyle they used to. They may be able to fulfill the obligations, but you still you'd like to have some enjoyment in life too also, and not just pay that in insurance and taxes. And then I would also like to know, on the general statute, on the back of this form, if somebody could explain that, on the back, General Statute 105-277, and also 105-277-1B, which I know tonight I'm not going to get an answer, because I had planned on some other things, questions, but no point me asking questions if I can't get answers. So I hope y'all do this again, that we can have questions and answers sessions, so we can understand what is really going on.
Yes, sir.
Okay? What now?
I encourage you to ask your questions so we can know to
Well,
address them.
that's okay, because I know other people got to speak to and want to, and I don't take up that time. My wife's already gave me a warning, she's ready to go eat. So,
Yes, sir.
so she's priority.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Next speaker, Ronald Williams.
Thank y'all for letting us come to ask a question, have our comments. Yeah, my taxes went up 78, or my appraisal went up 78%, but my rental property went up 120.9%. I read the article you wrote, and a couple things bothered me, I guess, in it. One thing was talking about being revenue neutral. We didn't have to go into revenue neutral because some counties didn't do it, which I got the impression, well, maybe we're not going to change that. And the other thing was, it said if you had to question or the appraisal, if all you're doing is saying it was too high, it wasn't gonna change. So, Kyle, you did something which gave us a little instructions on how to go about getting another evaluation or whatever. But if y'all would produce, like maybe put it in the paper or give people a way, instructions how to go about, getting it reappraised or amending an appraisal, it would help out because there's a lot of people in the county not here tonight that won't know that, what you said. So I appreciate that. And also, I would highly recommend, I hope y'all do it, is go revenue neutral to take off the sticker shock that we've all gotten in this appraisal. It's a lot to go up in 4 years. I mean, I understand where you're coming from on the people that have sold property, but my other question is, I've gotten a lot of offers in the mail and texting from a property, and they weren't from anywhere around here. So my question is too, are we being, our value's going up because outsiders are coming in and paying more than their appraised value to make it go up? So, it doesn't seem fair to us, but I think that's probably part of what's happened, because I say I get about two or three a week in the mail offering to buy my property.
Yes, sir.
But it's not been, most of them haven't been quite as much as this was.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got to say. Thank y'all for
All right.
asking me.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Teresa Matthews.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name's Teresa Matthews, and I live at... My name is Teresa Matthews, and I live at 788 Huff Garrett Road in Roxborough, North Carolina. Recently, Person County Tax Assessor's Office performed a tax reevaluation that seems to have upended the community at large. Last year, I stood before the Board of Equalization and Review and stated my solid case for overassessment. One amongst you sat in that meeting that unanimously voted to decrease my taxes, though not utilizing the legitimate markers I had requested. Instead, there was a shifting or nudging of some numbers to achieve a lower valuation, a methodology allowing for the effects of the same mistakes to be carried forward to a new tax card, a methodology that left a bad taste in my mouth. My 2024 reassessment debate pointed out that hundreds of thousands of dollars were being purposefully underassessed at a level that could not be ignored nor even comprehended. As the meeting concluded, I was ominously assured by the tax manager that everyone's taxes would be going up in 2025, to which I replied, good, they should. That is, at least in my neighborhood. As promised, my tax card shows a 55.71% increase. While this assessment is now more in line with the actual value, because the office has slowly begun to address the mind-boggling underassessment game floating around in Person County, I will have to appeal again. My tax card shows a harsh overassessment, and the doppelganger comparative is still receiving preferential treatment. In fact, the tax benefits that were spontaneously allotted them in the 2021 reassessment are at the minimum completely out of line. Fair is not a word I am sure the Person County Tax Office is capable of understanding, let alone implementing. Respectfully, I'm sorry. I looked at the numbers, and this is hard for me to say, but it was mind-boggling what was being done in terms of comparative properties. Respectfully, I ask the commissioners and county attorney to review this entire situation and ask yourselves, why should the public trust these reassessments when the office does not operate fairly? Where is the oversight? Where does the buck stop? And it stops with you, especially when you sit on the Board of Equalization and Review. My home was purchased for $53,910 below tax value, precisely due to its poor condition. We have made very conservative improvements. For the record, I agree with the first $100,000 levied. It again amounts to that last pesky $20,000, the direct result of a flawed methodology that lines the pockets of the rich while punishing the poor. I know what apples to apples looks like and tastes like, and so should the Board of Equalization and Review. Perhaps the state knows what a 0.65 depreciation factor looks like. That is the only column that ever had to be adjusted, and it creates a pleasingly fair tax value for all when done right the first time. In closing, I have a question for the committee. Is it possible to skip the informal review process and advance straight to the formal review? The instructions are unclear on the website versus the informal appeal form.
We'll follow up that question with the tax assessor when we conclude the comments.
Okay.
on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is James Coleman.
Thank you for taking the time this evening to let people talk, and I will say that the majority of people before me said some really good things. I'm going to tell you right up front, this country is in a spiral. I've lived in several places in this country, and I see the same things happening where cities and states are wanting more and more revenue from the people. And this is a good way of them to get that revenue. And without considering the fact that here in Person County, we have a growing population that is much older, a lot of retired people. When they see this tax form come in the mail, their first thought is how in the world on a fixed income am I going to be able to pay this tax bill? And so what happened in Raleigh not too many years ago, they did the same thing in Raleigh, in downtown Raleigh. And a lot of older people, I don't know if you're familiar with the old homes along Glenwood Avenue down towards downtown Raleigh. People had been living there for 30, 40, 80 years or more. People who had passed those, had been living there. And all of a sudden, these people who were on fixed incomes, they couldn't afford their tax bill anymore. They were forced to sell a home that had been in their family for years and years. That's wrong. That's fundamentally wrong. The other thing is all these numbers about people paying the money that they pay. I don't think anyone sitting in this room right now would pass up the chance to sell their home or a car or anything for more than what they paid for it. So, if you have somebody that's willing to look for a house or land, and they know that the tax value has always been, X amount of dollars, but they know that they can't find it anywhere else cheaper, and they're going to spend the money. I've seen homes and land in this county, they get into a bidding war for land in a house. A house that was worth probably $200,000 ended up selling for $750,000 after all said and done. How's that fair to the rest of the people that live in this county that don't want to sell their house and their land? I have a piece of property right now. It's totally worthless. It's landlocked. I granted my neighbor an easement on my property to build his septic system out of the goodness of my heart. Because he couldn't get a perk on his land. And I said, well, this land, I use it for enjoying wildlife. I hunt on it, but the land is worthless. And he's got a septic tank system right in the slap middle of this property, so you can't build on it. So here I get a tax bill that triples the amount that land is worth. And meanwhile, I keep getting these letters from these people that want to buy the land. I can guarantee you they ain't offering what Person County's wanting for that land or evaluate it. Nowhere close to it. That's fundamentally wrong. What I've seen in this country is we continue to live outside our means. This whole country, we're in serious debt in this country. And if we don't get a grasp of how we run our budgets on a county and local and state, we're going to be priced out of stuff. We're gonna be beyond what people can afford anymore. And you talk about young people can't afford homes. That's the reason why. How can you afford a house that you're making, if you're only making $60,000 and they want $500,000 for a house, it don't take rocket science to figure out that math. So I just wanted to voice my opinion. I think that the board needs to take a serious look when the budget comes around. They need to look at the tax rates and see where we are as far as what we're spending in this county. And that's the other thing. What are the people in the county getting for their tax money besides fire, volunteer fire, EMS, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Well, okay.
Yes, sir,
okay.
I'm just letting you know.
But I just wanted to say, I appreciate your time, and I think this is, I think hopefully y'all will make the right decisions coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Mike Cooley.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me tell you, I plan on being very short and very brief. In 1990, I bought a little piece of land in southern Person County. I paid $7,000 for an acre. I built my house on it. I spent $57,000 building my house. And then I did a detached garage. I spent $20,000 on my garage. I like to piddle. I got my tax notice in the other day. Every year it goes up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. In 2024, my tax notice, the value of my little 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with a detached garage on just shy of an acre, the tax value was $178,000. I live with it. I pay my taxes. I pay them on time. I get a tax notice the other week. My house is now worth $296,000. Is that right? By the way the crow flies, I'm 3/4 of a mile from the Mariah Center that got crammed down our throats. That's a hazard. I have a good friend that's a realtor and she sells in the area. I called her today and said, if I wanted to sell my $300,000 house, how long do you think it would take, and would I be able to get an offer knowing that I'm within flying distance of a hazardous location? She said, realtors have to disclose this. And it would be take time to find the right person to buy my house. But I don't know a person that would want to move into my house into this area. You talk about, Russell has a tough job. I agree with that. I have 3 new houses in my little small neighborhood. These people come in and they build these humongous houses and they pay above the asking price. Why should I be punished for that? I don't live extravagant. I maintain my house. Yes. The roof got bad, I put a new roof on it. I'm in the process now of painting my house. Board rots, I replace it. I haven't done anything else to this house. I've been here for 32 years. If this keeps up, I'll have to sell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Catherine Fulkerson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate how civilly this meeting is going. I served on boards and commissions in Durham for 35 years, and I fled Durham. And one of the reasons why I fled Durham was also the taxes that have happened in Durham. My husband and I built on a farm land about 20 years ago. He's no longer with us, so I'm on the farm, this 35-acre farm, myself. I was up at 4:30 this morning working on it. I'm 77, and I'm living there by myself. My neighbor does the hay fields that are on my property. And I've been foolish enough not to have that zoned as farmland, so it's being seen as residential. And to be honest, I'm a bit overwhelmed by the whole process of this. I've never had to do anything like this, and as I said, I am 77 and living by myself. I would encourage you to give a liberal definition of farmland, because part of mine is farmland related to the hay fields, which my neighbor feeds to his cattle and maintains the farmland. But part of mine is woodland, and I harvest the deer and the turkeys that live there, and I eat them. They eat my stuff, I eat them. And so it's part of a farm in reality, even though it's woodland. And it also allows there to be farms and woodland together, which is growing more and more difficult in Person County. And it was the reason my husband and I moved to Person County, because we were both from farm families in the Midwest, and we wanted to be back in that environment rather than Durham. So I have three things that I would like to say about that, and that is to give a liberal definition of farmland so we can get our deductions for that being farmland when it truly is. It has always been farmland. We built the house in a place so that it would not interfere with the farmland, with the pastures. And then I would like support for this appeal process. I'm overwhelmed when I hear how many people are going to be doing appeals, because I think there might be a lot of them. And it will be the first time I've ever done anything like that. It's really kind of overwhelming to me. And I would hope that there would be tax-neutral valuations, because for people like me, who's on a fixed income, doing the best I can to keep that to be a farm, rather than turn it into something else. It would really help me to be able to do that. And thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Next speaker is Edward Bryan.
I'm kind of new here, so you got to give me a little leeway. It's all right. I get 78 names so far for the protest against this, because in November's meeting that you guys had, you had nobody for or against this increase. I think it clearly states you shouldn't go over the 5% limit, that you guys should be going up. Why is it going 100%, 400%, 1,000%? That's what they want to know. It's supposed to go up 5%. That was been like that for years, past practice. If it's past practice, you must follow it. So we'd like to see if there's an attorney that will override Mr. Hunt's or Mr. Jones's tax guy information. He could be selling you a bill of goods. Did he come from Washington? Where did he come from? He didn't go to the same school I went to. 2 + 2 is 4 in my books. His is 10. I mean, this isn't a comical thing. It's serious. I mean, might sound funny, but he didn't go to the same school I did. I know that. He came from Mars or something. But why is the board trying to make up for lost money? From 2008, 12, 17, 21, errors, there's $2.5 million deficit. There's a Burger King that you guys, through the comments in the city, at the donut shop or the coffee I have, you guys are paying for Burger King and the big hole in the ground that's been there before Person County took over. I guess the bills are still coming out of Durham for here, so we got to get that corrected. There's a lot of issues, but let's stay focused on the tax hike. There's no reason, there's nothing new here. There's no new police cars. I didn't see one. I don't see a paddy wagon to pull the troublemakers out of here if there's one. I mean, I know we got the police, but they have no paddy wagon. They got a car to throw you in, but I don't think you can throw. Oh, there's about 1,000 people there. I don't think. But they don't even have a bus. I don't think they might, but either way. But there's nothing new. You guys don't even have the correct amount of people in this county. We need that addressed. I've been doing that since I come here a year ago. They keep saying 39,000 people. I got a piece of paper here. In 2010, it said that. You just heard many gentlemen here saying that the tax is out of the roof, and there's many people been moving in here. The real estate people that I've been talking to, they said this is a real estate boom. Seems like everybody's moving to Person County. So there's at least 100,000. So there's people aren't being counted here. So the police are going to have some serious work to do, knocking on doors and filming people going in and out. How much money does the county have? I've been trying to find that out on the websites. There's no number. How much money do you guys have in the account? Does anybody here on the board know how much money's in the account? I bet you I get nothing for an answer. That's why we're going up in a tax hike. There's no money in the account. How can you run a business with no money? If I take the money out of your bank account, you're out of here. You're gone. You're going to be moving out back home or your brother's house or your sister's house. As a resident, new, we need a special meeting with our tax cards. Maybe we should have a seminar on a Saturday. It's funny that you have it at 6 p.m. These people are just coming home from work. They probably didn't even go home and eat yet. So we got to have an appropriate time to meet. Not 6, not 5:30. If you do, have Burger King down here or one of the Chinese food or something. The board has plenty enough money. I know there's money in the account. You guys are withholding it. So what we as taxpayers want to know where the money is. We need to know where the funds are. Not now. When you write your monthly reports up, when you have your meeting, it has a total in the bottom. Robert's Rules of Order says you got to have that on your card. Robert's Rules of Orders. Do you guys follow Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes, sir.
You do? I got more work to do. There's no new schools. There's no new equipment. No new police. Unless someone come on, but one retires or one dies, 3 come on. That's equal balance, so there's nothing new. Home evaluations, you're going to have to look back at that 5% rule. I don't know where Mr. Jones come up with his numbers, but the 5% sounds appealing to me. Does that sound appealing to you guys? Did you hear that?
Sir, I appreciate your comments, but one of the terms, please do not address the crowd, address the commissioners.
I'm sorry. Just trying to.
And you're at 5 minutes right now, just to let you know.
Just trying. But it's just it's a lot of work. So you heard that the increases are severe, and we want to see if you guys are going to address the seriousness of these. Like one of the gentlemen was saying that you got a letter. It should be another type of letter saying at ease, or you might have to do the tax rate or the revenue neutral type of thing. I'm new at this, so I'm learning, but I don't want to be paying through the nose for my stuff. And my son's here. He wants to try to buy 3 or 4 acres of land to put on there, but he might not buy it here because he might buy it in Virginia. He might go up to South Boston or Clarksville. Why come here if he's going to get outrageous tax? It doesn't make anything. He's only making $40,000. So aren't a lot of the other people. So if there's somebody here making more than $50,000, $100,000, that's a way to look at that avenue. There might be you guys might have to put a law on the books or something. But I'd be looking at the laws from the state, like you guys were saying, that you have to go reevaluate, but not with Mr. Hunt, Mr. Jones's equation. Doesn't add up. It seems like he's from Pluto or something. But I do have this. I'll get that to the news, and I'll give it to the clerk at another time when I record it. I have to record it. That way we know that these people were here tonight. You people think that there's nobody here, so we want to try to make sure that's a statement for the record. Thank you very much for listening, and I kind of hope that you guys stick to that 5% rule. It's not just because of me, it's all the other people that are screaming too. So we appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Next speaker we have is Buddy W. Unfortunately, I cannot read your last name. You do reside on Virgilina Road. Is there a Buddy in the audience?
Buddy from Virgilina. All right. Going once. Going twice. If he shows up, we will call his name at the very end one more time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Mr. Greg Humphreys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Most of my questions that I had has already been answered from the people that's been here before me. But I just want to state that I've got 3 properties. The lowest one went up 81%. The highest one went up 143%. There was a $66,000 property that went up to $161,000. I really don't think that is correct. The northern part of the county, I have a 20-acre tract that went from $44,000 to $99,000. This is real money, and when it comes due, people have to pay it. And then, on top of that, the rate. My guess is that this year the rate won't go up, but my guess is also that next year it will. I mean, that's just the way it works. I would, excuse me, I would like to talk about 2 stories. One of them is a buddy of mine from about 2 decades ago. Young man, 35, 40 years old. Outdoorsman, loved to fish. He wanted to get him a property on Carr Lake. Saved his money. He built him a house out on Carr Lake. 5 years after he built it, he sold it because every year the taxes went up. That's a dream that somebody lost. And then last night, this has got nothing to do with us. It's just the country we're in right now. There was a news story out in California of some woman that had, her rent was $1,200 a month. Her electric bill was $1,800 a month. I mean, we as a nation, I don't know where we're headed, but it's not to a good spot. And with that, I think I'll close. Thanks, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Donna Clay.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank y'all for letting us speak this evening. I believe everybody has more or less got their point across of my thoughts. I don't know about everybody else, but the financial situation I know myself, I can't really speak for everybody else. It's all I can do. I have to think twice about buying that carton of eggs now. Then you take your insurance. You take gas. You take everyday living expenses, how everything's doubled, at least doubled. I'm here standing in front of you. I don't come from money. I have 2 properties. One is a single wide trailer. I disagreed with the tax value in the past at $22,000. Now, with this assessment, it is $181,000. The other one that I have is a double wide, small, maybe 1,200 square feet at the most. It went from $314 to $519. So between the single wide trailer, and as Mr. Jones said, when we pull up, we can't tell what's going on inside your residence. This trailer is just being used for storage. It is a 1984 model, single wide, 12 by 65 trailer. And it's valued now at $181,000. In all, my property taxes have gone from, in years past, last year, $314,000 to $719,000 for a single wide trailer that's being used as storage and a small 1,200 at the most square foot double wide trailer. So I'm standing here in front of you telling you that something has got to be done. I can't afford these prices. It's all I can afford now just in everyday living. So if y'all would have a look at this, I know y'all work, your job is for the taxpayers. Now's when you need to help these taxpayers out. And I close with that.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Mary Gufflow. Mary Gufflow.
Mary? Going once? Going twice? We will recall her name at the end, just in case she stepped out for a moment.
Yes, sir. Next speaker we have is Robert Allen.
Robert Allen, 549 Old City Lake Road, Roxborough, 27574. I have 4 points I'd like to make. Although the revaluation is based on what was last done 4 years ago, the increase really reflects increases from last year's tax amount. In some cases, upwards of 50%. Mine was 60% from just my bill last year. Number 2, if the revaluation stays in place and the tax rate stays the same, what new services would we see? More sheriff's deputies? More firefighters, more EMS, more funding for public schools, more internet access, more roads maintenance, maybe even county-wide trash pickup. What benefit does increased revenue provide the citizens of Person County? Or it maybe is this money just used to pay off inflation? Well, we know that even though we've had high inflation for the last couple of years, it doesn't equate to 60%. Number 3, if you must keep the revaluations in place, please consider making the new budget at least to some degree net revenue neutral. Lower the tax rate because a high tax rate combined with higher tax appraisals puts a strain on all of us, especially those of us on fixed incomes. And even with the lower tax rates, our bills this year will still be increased from what they were last year. Finally, I would ask that you extend the appeals time period because it will be very difficult to find real estate appraisers when many of our citizens will be searching for one in order to appeal. I do know that you have a deadline of July the 1st to get the budget done, but I do think you can extend the appeals time by a little bit anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Larry Sigmund.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to address my situation, but please keep in mind that there are other people in this county that are in the same situation I'm in. I have 4 properties in Person County. I moved here in 2004, decided to make Person County my home. Excuse me. The first one I want to talk about is a 6-acre tract I have out on Charlie J. Road in the Woodsdale area. This property, now I can only access one way in and one way out due to the road closure of Chubb Lake Road for the mega park. I live in the Allensville area, so I usually took the back road down by Mill Creek to go into that property. Now I have to go into town to get to that property down Chubb Lake Road. Stories Creek backs up to that property. It is considered a flood zone. It is probably the most worthless piece of land out there, but I bought it to hunt, strictly hunt. There's no build site, there's no perk site. It went last year from 23,000 this year to 53,000. And it's just crazy. And that was, the flood zone was considered a flood zone by Person County standards because it backs up to a creek. So I guess one question for that property is, being how the mega park closed the road, are they going to redo a road to bypass the mega park to come in that way again? So there'll be 2 accesses to that area. There's a lot of people that live in that area. And, you know, to get fire trucks, ambulance in and out, they've got one way. They can't come in the back way if they're coming from another part of the county. They have to come in one way. The other 2 properties that I have are on Gentry Dunkley Road. Those 2 are in flood zones because my back property line is Mayo Creek. And anybody that lives in that area, knows anything about that area, knows how many times Mayo Creek flooded this past year. It flooded 4 times. I have a pond on that property, and it flooded my pond up to my goat livestock fence. The water came up to the fence. And it's washing away, it's eroding my property back there on the back property line due to dead trees falling in and jamming up. But both of these properties went up 50 to 55% in value. I guess one question I have here, I'm planning to go to the tax office and file to be reappraised. But I'm retired, living on a fixed income. I'm also disabled due to multiple back and shoulder surgeries. There was no option before the appraisal to submit this information. Nothing was in the mail. If you have special needs or special situations, let's hear them before we jack your taxes up, and then we'll fix your taxes later, possibly. But, something needs to be done ahead of time instead of trying to fix it all at the end of the season, let's get ahead of the game. Let's do it before this happens. And, you know, it seems like the county just moved ahead without even caring. And what, I know one question is, that I have is this tax money going to be used to help finance the mega park? Is it going to be helped to fix roads? Because the roads in Person County are horrible. I mean, it is just crazy horrible. But I just want to get that point across because there's other people in the same situation. But I appreciate y'all letting me talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Tabitha George.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting people speak without the 10-minute total limit. That was very gracious. I'm here because last year I went to the Board of Equalization and Review that this board has spoken of, and the grade for my property was lowered according to the board. That was reflected on my tax card at the time, and after the reevaluation, my tax card was changed so that I was upgraded. Even though there's a note on the tax card that says change to grade 2 per the Board of Equalization and Review. So there's the note on the tax card in the notes section, but the grade on my tax card is higher than that. So I have a concern with that. I feel like I can't be the only person in the same boat where just last year I had a hearing, went to the board, and so part of me is wondering if this is something that I'm going to need to do every year, is to file an appeal. I was informed that the reappraiser might take that into consideration, but that was not what I was expecting when I was at the Board of Equalization Review. There, I was informed, as the previous speaker stated, that the tax rate would be going up for all grades by the reappraisal, but it was also said that the grade that I had would stay. But it hasn't. It's been upgraded. And so that makes me wonder, so now I need to go through the appeals process instead of it being something that could be fixed, even though it can't be fixed, apparently, even though it says it on the tax card. And just to think of when this is being done, think of the extra work that's being made for staff when things like this are done. And for the Board of Equalization and Review, if this happens to everyone, if everyone from all history needs to come every year and talk to the board again, that's going to be a strain on the volunteers that are willing to serve on that board, and I'm sure it takes them a lot of time, and that will add to the caseload. And just kind of 2 suggestions that I would have found to be personally helpful. Sometimes the tax card can be a little confusing. There's a lot of abbreviations that people are not familiar with, and those abbreviations aren't necessarily spelled out in the tax document, the 222 pages where it says the valuations for the different things. I've tried looking back and forth. I can kind of intuit because I've looked at probably a few hundred different tax cards to figure out what it was. I think that might be helpful in the future, just to consider for to write out things, and possibly also in this tax document that states the rates. If there could be a table of contents added in the future, that would be very helpful. And also if there could be descriptions of the classes or the grades of houses. That was in a previous tax document, but I did not see it in the 2025 one. I know it wasn't in the 2021 one, but I think it was in the one prior to that. And thank you for listening to all of us.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Barry Fletcher.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I can tell you my story, which is similar to several I've heard already, and probably a lot more have the same one. I had a house out of 158 West, have it, bought 20 acres on the highway just as a buffer zone, basically for noise or whatever. The valuation last year was twice what I paid for it at the open market, sold at the courthouse. $122,000 for it was the valuation. This year went to $262,000. This is 20-acre block. There's 2 blocks together, total 20 acres. Not even sure the land will perk. Can't be farmland because I don't have anything listed as farmland. It's just scrub timber out there. It's been cut over. And like I say, it was basically just bought just as a buffer. Went up something like 110%, I'm saying. My house went up, looks like it went up about $60,000 on the lot adjacent to it. And Mr. Jones, I know, probably does a good job. He works for y'all, I'm assuming. All y'all work for all of us, I'm assuming. I don't know, do you need money? How many new houses are going into effect in Preston County this year? All the subdivisions around, they're just booming from what I hear. I don't know how much money y'all gonna need to support the county. Looks like it's no limit on it. Maybe you need to get a new budget director or something to figure out how much money the county's gonna need. This saying it's revenue neutral, you're gonna drop the amount, the list for, not the listing, but whatever it is you call it, 72 cents on 100, whatever. It'd have to be a heck of a drop to come down half price on my property. I don't think it's going to ever happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker, Dave Jeffries.
Mr. Jeffries? Okay, thank you.
I had to write my stuff down because I went to state. I have some vacant lots behind my house, and so this is related to the information that was put on the up here about how the assessments were computed, and none of those numbers were round numbers that I saw. They're all, real numbers, decimal numbers or whatnot. And I've got 2 landlocked vacant lots that are adjacent to a lot that has road front access on a paved road. And one of those lots is the 5th, which is basically occupied by groundhogs and stray cats, and it's just a bowl of water and overgrown underbrush. That one appraised at half the value of an acre-sized lot that I cleared off and cleared all the underbrush from, and that's the one with the road frontage. This one's a 5th the size, and it appraised at half the value. And then another one I have that's smaller than the 1 acre lot as well, also does not have access, and it appraised at over half the value of that. But both of these landlocked pieces of property appraised at over 2.5 times what they were previously. And I know I'm not in as bad a shape as some people because I don't know hundreds of acres of land that were appraised like that. But the point is that the commissioners need to publish, and people have said some of this, maybe I'm just restating, but they need to publish clear rules for successfully challenging an assessment. The rules need to define terms explicitly and clearly, and need to state with reasonable certainty what criteria will result in an adjusted tax valuation rather than just giving instructions for filing a challenge. That way we don't come by and waste your time, for one thing. We need to know, you know, how do we have our ducks in a row? The formulas need to be expressed clearly, and a person of reasonable intelligence needs to be able to compute what their property value should be, given the numbers that you guys are proposing. Right? There's only one variable here, it's the tax rate. So at least, even if that variable is unknown, you can compare it to what you had in the past, given two different tax rates. You can't even do that now. And then the other thing I was going to point out was that it's been expressed a couple of times by different people how they understand why the property taxes need to go up, because the real estate values have increased, and they've increased dramatically in some places, although not uniformly. And the neutral revenue idea is not going to solve the problem with these wild evaluations. That would only work if everything was uniformly evaluated and was either going to go up or down. But you've got people that have property that's clearly way out of alignment with reality. So it won't fix any of that. So people need to know how to, exactly how to appeal, exactly what they need. And I think you guys should give them a guarantee that if you guys can reject an appeal because there's no appraisal, then they need time, because they've only had like a month. And all the appraisers are going to be busy, obviously, doing this stuff. And then someone has mentioned the fact that they've seen people from out of state trying to buy properties. And I'm just going to read this because I'm too dumb to do it by memory. But I believe that county commissioners have a duty to consider in tax revenue generation strategies the current hyperinflationary distortions taking place in the housing markets. Real estate is flowing into large capital now, as the depreciating dollar is inducing basically a front-end flight to real values and encouraging these firms to channel large cash reserves into real estate properties as a hedge. Ordinary home buyers cannot compete against these buyers, and the feedback loop and the subsequent comps being registered with each distorted bid and sale are producing a feedback loop that is favoring the elimination of the middle-class home ownership, which is the backbone of private property ownership in this country. So the county does, if you're going to cite just the increased real estate values as to why the taxes need to go up or whatever, or need to be, reassessed, then the evaluations have to be good to have any hope for revenue neutral taxes. And if that's not going to happen, then you're basically inducing a flood of buyers to come in to the county and outbid people, corporate buyers. And they'll fill them with lower middle income people that aren't going to be able to provide, the tax bases you want. Okay. And then let's see. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you.
Next speaker we have is Greg Dale.
Thank y'all for listening to us. I'm going to be short because Dr. Howe and some other people have already reiterated what my concerns are in Person County. I came here 20 years ago to raise 4 kids, and I left Durham County because it was less expensive up here. I have a son that has 3 kids. His wife can't afford to work because she has to take care of the kids and run them back and forth to school. So for someone that is a working individual like my son, it's hard for him to work paycheck to paycheck just to keep his family up. He can't afford taxes increase. I can't afford tax increase. I'm on Social Security, disabled. The other thing that I want to know is, somebody has said it, Dr. Howe said something earlier about kids working that they can't afford to buy a home. Well, they can't. but the income of the people in Person County is not the same as the income of the people in Durham County and Raleigh and Johnson County. So, somewhere into effect, we need to take account to the people and the income that they generate and what they can afford to live. And I know we're trying to compare real estate to real estate, but we need to think about the people of this county. And the other thing I wanted to say is, talking about people, the Haiku Lake area and the real estate going up. Well, who are the people that are coming in here to buy property at Haiku Lake? Because I can't afford it, and I know my kids can't afford it. So I think that should be put on a separate issue when we're going to talk about raising people's taxes. But that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Ryan Stone.
Hey guys, my name's Ryan. I'm a local business owner. Both sides of my family have lived in Person County for generations. Sorry guys. Did y'all get that? I would really, really, really prefer to keep my head down, run my business, mind my business. As a business owner, I understand the need for price increases. I understand the concept of inflation. I don't need it explained to me. None of us here oppose taxes. We appreciate what our tax dollars go for. Law enforcement, fire, necessary things. We get it. But I'm hearing like exponential increases over what we had last time. 80%, 110%. Like, this almost feels like a science fiction movie. Like, it's crazy. And I've witnessed what's going on in the real estate market over the past few years. But we need to understand that's an anomaly. That was COVID related. Prices are starting to come back down to earth. And like, do we want Person County to remain unique? Or do we want to be like Wake and Durham and all these other counties with high taxes and high crime and all the rest of it? Is that what we want? I don't think so. I don't envy any of y'all's jobs, like I really don't. And I appreciate the service you provide. I see a lot of head nodding, a lot of sympathetic looks. Let's see if it translates into real action.
Next speaker, Brad Wesley.
Good evening, you guys, and thanks for hearing us out tonight. My name is Brad Wesley, and I've been a lifelong resident of Person County. I'm about to be 49 years old, and I brought before you tonight a case study. And to my left is my 21-year-old son, Jackson Wesley, and to my right is my soon-to-be 18-year-old daughter, Julia Wesley. And right here, this is Brooke Wesley, who married Jackson back in November at the age of 20. They got married at the age of 20. My entire marriage and my entire life, we've had one saying at my house, that we've not raised a single kid in my house. We've been raising adults from the time they were born. And in raising those adults, we raised them to appreciate things, to grow up, to want to be homeowners, to contribute to the same way of life that I've known my life, which, to be honest with you, has been hard work. Every day. I remember when my brother was born, my dad had me on a construction site and they were putting in a foundation, and I was there at the age of 3. I don't know any difference. I know hard work. I'm an unlimited licensed building contractor. I'm a real estate broker in North Carolina and South Carolina. We built houses from here to there and everywhere in between, and maybe even some of yours in this room. And what I can tell you is during COVID, 2020, regardless of what your TV reports told you, inflation was anywhere from 30, 40 to well over 100%. And these numbers went up mid-construction, and as a builder, we had to juggle these numbers and try to explain to people how in the world this was possible. Just this past year, when Jackson and Brooke were married in November, I had one stipulation when they both came to me and said they wanted to get married. I said, that's great. You got to get out of my house. Because that's the American way. And so we began on the journey of building their home. A couple of years ago, I had sold a spec house to a family, 2,150 square feet, for approximately $360,000. In that entire deal, I made about $5,000 as a building contractor. This past year, we built Jackson and Brooks' house, and they moved in. And that house cost them approximately $400,000. And when they received their tax notice, 2,150 square feet, it came back at $619,000. And they're 21 years old. And get up in the morning at 4:30. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they work from approximately 4:30 until whenever the job is done. And here's my fear for them, and even more so for my daughter who is embarking on a nursing career. They won't experience what you experienced. They won't have the opportunity to experience home ownership as you've experienced it. There's a lot of older people in this room who are going to be expelled from their residences after working their entire lives to realize what's known as the American dream, which has turned into the American nightmare. My dad, who's been a building contractor in Person, Durham, Granville, Orange, and all points in between for now 50 years, he's about to be 71, and he speaks about retirement. And although I don't really believe that he's going to do it, when we factor up what his increase in taxes are, it's going to cost him $650 a month minimum for the rest of his life if he has no other bills to live in his current residence. $650. He developed a subdivision in Person County contributing to the tax revenue in 2006, and we still have some lots in that subdivision. There is a pond in that subdivision known as Common Ground. You guys are familiar with Common Ground? It's like common area for residents in a neighborhood. Last year, that pond, which does not belong to him entirely, even though he is a lot owner there, it also belongs to Jackson. It will belong to Julia after she turns 18, and it belongs to the other residents. Last year, that pond was tax valued at $11,000. It's really pretty to look at. This year, it just came back out at $99,000. So I dare someone to go build a house in the middle of that pond. I would love to see the engineering marvel if that is possible. Here's what I'm saying. The people in this room that have put their time in, and the people in this room that are busting their butts to put their time in, deserve better. Here's a number I want to give you. I'm almost done. The mass appraisals, according to Russell Statistics, in the last 2 years, 1,500 properties were sold in Person County. Did you remember him saying it? Let's just be liberal. And let's go for 4 years. And let's say 3,000 homes sold in Person County in an inflated period. At 1,500 homes, let's start there, there's approximately 27,000 properties or property owners in Person County. Every one of us in this room, including you guys here, if you live in this county, you had your taxes reevaluated and raised based on 5% of all properties sold in the county in the last 2 years. Let's be liberal and say 3,000. Well, that just said that everyone in this room had their taxes reassessed and reevaluated at astronomical rates based on approximately 11% of all properties sold in our town and community. Which, by the way, LGI Homes came to town, and they've got bank rolls that we don't know anything about, right? Matter of fact, the only way they sold those homes is they offered 0% financing just to get rid of them. And that's the only way it worked. And if you noticed, they've not developed the next phase because they're not stupid. Here's what I'm saying. You want to do the right thing? Throw this one out and reappraise all the county properties based on 90% of the properties and the people that live there, and let's do something fair for the people of Person County.
Next speaker, Brett Swanson.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? It's unfortunate I have to follow up after that awesome speech. Thank you, Mr. Wesley. I think
Gentlemen,
his name was.
give me. I'm going to calm the crowd down so we can hear you, so everyone can hear you.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you, but the crowd cannot.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're exiting, please be quiet and be respectful to the speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't have anything prepared. I don't know quite what to say. I want to appeal to whomever has any authority or power in this
Excuse
county.
me. I'm going
Can
to
you hear me?
reset you. Give me one. Sheriff, can you politely ask our patrons to remain quiet in the back so everyone can hear the speaker? Thank you.
Yeah, as I was saying, I don't have anything prepared. Not sure what to say. Just want to appeal to anybody who has any authority. You know, I don't know the scope of the commissioner's authority or whomever, like I said. So, yeah, my main concern is, like a lot of people tonight, property increase of 218% in a year. And the concern is what's going to happen in a year, 5 years, 10 years. What if I've worked really hard to be able to pass something down to my kids, Lord willing. We have any, me and my wife. We currently don't. But what will they be able to afford it? And just like this gentleman previously said, what about his children? Will they be able to afford their homes and all that? And I mean, it's hard, guys. And the part of the reason, everything's so expensive is the inflation. And I mean, arguably, the currency has been devalued. Was that even legal? How that happened? I don't think so. What does that got to do with what does that have to do with me? Why are you gonna, hit us again? You wonder why. I mean, this county, there's a lot of old people. A lot of them are dying. You say there's 40,000. I don't know the exact numbers. You wonder why people don't have families or kids. It's like we both got to work. Me and my wife, we work all the time for what? And then to have price increases. You got to work hard just to have a house and some property out here. But anyway, this meeting was started with a prayer. I believe it was you, Mr. Thomas. And so I am going to assume that at least you believe that this government, Person County, is under God. And I'm reminded of one of the commands, which is "Thou shalt not steal." That I'm serious. That presupposes personal, private property rights. So what happens in 5 years when I can't pay my taxes? Is that better? You get to take my property? Does that mean I even have any personal property rights? So my appeal to you guys, I mean, a lot was said that was really good. One thing is what do we even need all this money for? I'm not in Person County. I don't want bike lanes. Probably most of us here don't. I don't want bike lanes. I don't want bike trails. Don't want buses. Don't want any really government services. I mean, like the gentleman said, voluntary fire, that's fine. Obviously law enforcement. I know that there's got to be some money for the government to run. I do believe that government is ordained by God, so I think it's okay. But is this government acting justly and morally? You just prayed to God in the name of Jesus. Well, I'll stand before him and account for what we've done. Are you acting morally? If God is the authority, we have his word. It's given to us.
Sir.
Yeah.
Can you please address the board, not an individual
Oh,
commissioner?
yeah. Well, I mean,
Thank
I'm
you.
addressing everybody because we're all, responsible before God. We all stand before Him. But I just happened to hone it. Look, I'm not a public speaker. I wasn't prepared. I just found about this meeting today. Give me a break. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Tracy, I've met him. I've met her in the store. I don't know if she remembers me. I don't know. I've heard of you. I've never met you. Don't know you. I've heard of that name. Are you kin to the Per Year Trucking? I don't know any of you. Okay, so now you know me. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think this is moral. I mean, we got to reassess this tax situation. If you guys can't, if you can't get it done, without screwing us on taxes, we got to have some real conversations. And I feel like a lot of this stuff, like, I work overtime, just to get by. When do I have time to even figure all this stuff out? It's very convoluted. And I guess a lot of, maybe some of you guys like that. I don't know. I don't know what's in your heart. But, that's what I'm trying to appeal to, is the morality of it all, because you did pray. You did invoke the name of the Lord today. I guess you believe the government's under God. I do. And, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than, 218% is ridiculous. Like I said, if I don't pay my taxes, you'll take what I have. What happens in 5 years? And this is the story of a lot of older people that, 50 years ago, even 10 years ago, 40 or 50 grand was a living. It ain't now. So that's a short period of time. And over the last couple of years, what you got to make to own a house, to own land, and now to pay the taxes on it? Come on, man. It's out of control. So, yeah, I don't want you to ruin this county. Yeah, and like some people said, we're not Durham, we're not Wake, it's a rural county. Most of us, I think I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'm assuming the bulk majority of us don't want a whole bunch of government services. You know what I mean? If I had kids, they wouldn't be going to public school. So I guarantee I'm paying for the public schools and my property taxes. Why? I don't have any kids in those schools, and I wouldn't if I did. So, that would also be another form of theft. You're taking my money to pay for stuff that I'm not even using. So, and what else am I paying for that I'm not using? Yeah, I don't know what else to say. But yeah, may the Lord have grace on you guys, and I hope you do the right thing.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Siri Yao.
My name is Siri. Yeah, I live on 30 Ellis Pleasant Drive out in Leesburg. And I understand the process we're going through here, and I think everybody else does too. And no one is opposed to taxes to maintain Person County. And no one wants to be a prisoner to someone who can't justify anything, and we don't have a choice. So we're a prisoner to those decisions until other decisions are made. And I feel like I'm living in an eminent domain territory here. And everybody wants to see growth. Everybody wants to see progress. And that's where I am. And real estate at one time used to be a great opportunity for people to make money. Young people started small houses. But even the small houses, with what Mr. Jones represented, I was really impressed with his presentation. I was really impressed on how he took the numbers and put it from A to B, from C to D, and all this, and how you can twist and turn anything. I understand the process of money and progress. But I have never heard COVID made money, and you could justify selling 10 acres of land that was valued last year at $32,000, and now it's $93,000, and it's not even road assessment, and you don't even know if it can perk. You don't even know if it doesn't even have a septic tank on it, and we all know. I know out in Leesburg we have a real issue with land perking and septic tanks. And I know when Lou and I built our house, our septic tank was going to cost $20,000 of what they wanted us to put in. And I said, we might as well forget that. We can't build a house if we're going to have to, I'm going to put it all in the septic tank. So therefore, what I'm saying is that when you ride by and you see these estimates of what you're reevaluating, what are you looking at? And the assessments is like unreal. And how do you justify the increases? And I want to know how you value houses. Houses in a housing development, is it valued different than in a rural area? I mean, and like if my house is a decent house, everybody in here has worked hard and want a decent house, but they don't want to give it all in taxes because these taxes appraisals are going to be raised by our insurances. Our insurance policy is going to be based. I want choices. I also want the insurance to change that if my house is paid for, if my house is valued at $500,000 or $300,000, I should have an option to take the insurance I want, knowing that I may not get the value. I'm not going to get the value of it anyway. But increase adds on increase. And I know that when they presented this, it's like when I was working. You throw it out there through the public, and they take what it is. They either take it, if they don't say anything, guess what? Accomplished, mission accomplished. We've done this, we've done our deal. Until, okay, let's see what we need to adjust. We need to adjust our living expenses here, our taxes. Nobody's opposed to paying taxes. And it's not our fault that people are coming in here. Where's the money coming from? What about the people that's coming in here now? There's a lot of property that don't have water. They don't have sewer. They don't have, because, number one, if you're going to access like the 10 acres I'm talking about, you can't, what if you can't perk it? And you're going to charge me $92,000 for 10 acres of land? That's unheard of. So I think that in all of this, that that our taxes and our properties are valued to each of us in here. We want to do our share, but we don't want to be overburdened with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll go back to the two that did not respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Buddy W.
Okay, next.
The next speaker, Mary Gufflow.
Okay. All right. At this time, that concludes our public comment period. And we're asked the tax administrator to come up with some follow-up questions from the board, but I do appreciate everyone's time, their patience in their comments. Members of the board, at this point, does any member have any questions to address the tax assessor? We've heard quite a few.
Tax deferment for farmland, is that something that can be addressed through the appeals process, or is that a separate process?
So the application to be in farm use for the deferred taxes is normally due before the end of January. However, the board has the opportunity to accept late applications. The rules on that deferment are set by the state. So someone who has 10 acres of ag land, they produced at least $1,000 minimum gross income for the last 4 years, can apply to get a deferment. It's 10 acres of agriculture, 20 acres of woodland, or 5 acres of horticulture. And that is a state mandate, state rules. But yes, that is available. Deadline was Friday, but this board can accept late applications, and a reappraisal year is the time to think about doing that.
All right, let's talk about, there was a resident who had a question if the informal appeal process could be skipped and go straight to the Equalization Review Board.
Absolutely. So if you think that it's not going to do any good to talk to the tax office, the reappraisal firm, my staff, you're definitely welcome to go directly to the Board of Equalization Review. The only caveat is you cannot go to the state unless you go to the Board of Equalization. If you come to the informal appeal, you can't go to state. You gotta go to the Board of Equalization. You can go to all three, but you gotta go to board before you can get to the state level.
So we heard about, is there some support for how to, you know, what would be considered for an appeal? I'm assuming that if somebody comes to the tax office, your staff will help them through that, and that might be the benefit of going through the informal process before you go to the Board of ENR.
Absolutely. As they come in with a form, and I know the form says amount of increase or can't afford to pay is not an appeal. However, the conversation around why it should not have gone up as much is always going to be welcomed. We have great staff sitting there wanting to understand what you know about the property that we don't know. So if you come in with your form and say, I don't know how to fill this out, but you want to talk about the characteristics of your property, we can verify that we have appraised correctly and we can fill the form out for you if we know what you want to say on it.
And I think from the comments, some people clearly understood this, but maybe others didn't. But even a revenue neutral rate does not mean you would pay the same thing that you paid last year.
Correct. So the board must publish, as part of the budget adoption, a revenue neutral rate. The board can go lower than revenue neutral. The board can go higher than revenue neutral. The board must decide what services, like any other year, you got to decide what services you want to provide to your citizens and what rate will support those. But revenue neutral will not make most people's taxes not increase, but it will take some of the sting out, yes. So we're hoping to get the informals into our office by March 1st. And we're hoping to get the notices back out to citizens by the end of March. The Board of Equalization Review, which we'll talk about who those members will be, will set their dates when they will accept appeals. They can't accept any earlier than the first Monday in April. And they must start accepting before the first Monday in May. They can go as long as they need to go, but the acceptance of appeals, when you get them in, is just getting them scheduled, knowing how many you have, and then we'll work through those. In a reappraisal year, you can hold appeals all the way through the end of the year, all the way to December. In a non-reappraisal year, you got to finish by June 30. However, it makes it very difficult for you to set your budget when the appeals are still out there. If the appeal process is running longer than the budget adoption, we will make an emphasis on working on the high dollar appeals, the ones that really could affect your budget first. And that's just only being fair to you can't set a budget if you don't know where your final numbers are going to be. So we will take care of the ones that might have a huge effect on your budget if we think we're going to run past the budget discussions and budget adoption.
The appeal time goes all the way through December, is that what you just said?
You can, that's up, so the filing of appeals is one thing we have to get through. So when is the Board of Equalization going to accept the filing? So filing is just say, here's my paperwork, my name's in the bucket, and then they'll contact you, so this is going to be your appointment time. So when you file it, we're going to take those filings maybe in the month of April, just to make it easier to see. And then after that, you can get your information together. You don't have to have your information ready to file, but you have your name in the bucket that I want to appeal. So if someone says, I need, as part of my evidence, it's worth it to me to get a fee appraisal, we can put you towards the end. If we're finishing up all the appeals in June, that's towards the end. We have to go ahead and get you to get your fee appraisal done. But if they run much longer, if you want to be last on the list, not everybody can be last, but we can put you down towards the bottom if you need time to get your information together.
And can we publish something saying in the Courier for the tax card abbreviation that they stated they was very confusing with?
I
So we
can
do that.
We have called a Code 50 sheet. It's a cheat sheet. I can put that on the website. We can talk about how to publish that. It's just a front and back. It describes some of the codes. It doesn't tell you how to do the calculation on a tax card, but our software is one of the few softwares in the state where you can actually do the math and figure out what each thing does. You may not understand what they are, but my staff can explain it to anyone who wants to talk about it.
I have a question. Have you all ever had like a review from the State Board of Equalization and review? Like,
So
they come in just to see
in 2013,
everything is.
it was a similar reappraisal, not quite as extreme as this one. And we did ask the Department of Revenue to come in and verify that what we'd done was correct, and there were no flaws found. Now, we didn't get them all right. That's what the appeal process is about. But our methodology was correct. It was correctly applied. Our sales ratio was done correctly. They went through the deeds to make sure that what we were saying something sold for, that was the price it sold for, and that was done at the request of the county commissioners. We're pretty transparent.
So everyone has to start the appeals process by March 1st.
They do not. If they want the informal appeal,
Okay.
we would like it to have by March 1st. Until the Board of Equalization and Review starts, they can talk to our staff, and our staff can make the adjustments. After the Board of Equalization starts, we will work through the remaining appeals, but the Board of Equalization has to approve what we changed after they have taken power. So we can, if we don't get all our appeals done and the board's ready to start, they can still let us do some work, and then we'll call the taxpayer and say, this is what we'll recommend to the board. And sometimes they will say, that's not acceptable, and I want to talk to the board. Or they say, if the board will do that, I don't need to come see the board. That makes things move along faster. So if they point out something like you had the wrong bathroom count, and the board's already taken power, I would tell them, all right, we'll adjust it this much. And then we'll take it to the Board of Equalization as a consent agenda item and say, taxpayer, tax office recommends this change, and everybody's on the same page. The board says yes. So that speeds up the process also.
Do we offer any type of like workshop?
I am more than willing to sit down with groups. I recently talked to the Roxborough Christian Women's Group at the Homestead. I think we had 62 people show up. And we started off talking about the homestead exemption, the veterans exemption, things like that. We ended up talking about reappraisal because that wasn't what they asked me to come there for, but I knew it was coming out. I'm meeting with Kiwanis this Thursday at lunch. We reached out to a Rotary recently. Smaller groups where we can sit down and have that intimate conversations are great. My staff are willing to do that one-on-one. So anything we can do to help understand the process, that we can help understand your property, we want it right just as much as you do.
So so normally for these reappraisal processes, do they have to pay for an appraisal, a reappraisal themselves on the majority of these? Or is this just they come in there, they just explain to you what y'all?
Yeah, very good. So years ago, I had a appraisal firm that was offering to remeasure stuff for people at a price. And we quickly explained to them that in their tax bill, they're already paying for a remeasure. If you say something's wrong, we'll come out and look at it with you. The tax rate includes those appeals. There's no charge to file an appeal. I'm thankful for that, because there should not be a charge to point out something that my staff missed.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's not a burden on the taxpayer to have to come out there and do the process.
The only burden is they got to take time of their day, or they got to put it in the mail. And if they need our help filling it out, I know that it's going to be a burden to take time off work to fill it out. We can handle some of that with the phone. We can handle it by email. We're there to help everybody.
Question. The ENR board in the past has, on their own decision, took a private appraisal in effect as a comps, showing comps and taking that into consideration. And there have been reductions if it's a private appraisal done. As you said, they would have to pay for it out of their own pocket for it. But you and I both have seen experiences where the ENR board did accept or did reduce prices based on a private appraisal that was completed.
Yes, sir, and we would do that at the informal level too. So if they brought that to us, and many already have, we would look at the timeliness of the appraisal, so make sure the appraisal wasn't, more than a year old. We would look at the comparables they used, and if it was done for market analysis and not for refi, we would reduce it also, so the board wouldn't have to be burdened with going through that paperwork. They wouldn't have to bring 7 copies in for the board to have. We would do it for them. Same thing.
And this is a question, well, it's not a question, it's more of a statement to the county manager and especially around our PR, public relations person. You know, February is the shortest month of the year. And the, you heard the date for the appeals. I think we need to probably have some informal meetings about being very efficient to be in creating awareness dates, or just make things a little bit easier for the public to be aware of what's going on and what are the key dates, what are the definitions. We may need to look at doing some informal workshops because some people work during the day, some people work at night, but I think that's some dialogue the commissioners need to have with county administration and leadership to move forward, because we're already in February 3rd on it, and I would normally say let's wait till the retreat, but that's 2 weeks from now, and most of February would be gone by then. So I think that's the conversation, and I encourage all board members to be active in that conversation as to what we can do be better to create awareness and make things more convenient for the people who do want to appeal, because I get it. I mean, I understand how it can be very confusion, and then they can say, heck with it, it's not going to make a difference anyhow. But I don't want that mentality. I'd like to see us do the best we can, and at least we can say we did as much public awareness either on Facebook, emails, used the Courier as a resource as well. But I think that's something that we need to start looking at effective tomorrow. Any other questions for the tax administrator?
Yes, I have one. Nobody's mentioned cities. Everybody, isn't it true that like he raises $100,000 to a city house, it's going up 200,000? Is that the way it works? They don't.
All right. Yes, sir. And informal comments have ended, but I will accept your question, and if Russell can announce it.
So in North Carolina, the city must use the tax valuation done by their county. So that the city will have the same conversations and should have the same public input that you're offering to this board about revenue neutral, keeping taxes down because they will set their own tax rate. And one thing we did mention tonight here too was the fire tax rate is set by this board. So that's another rate to talk about. It's only 5 cents currently, but that rate could be adjusted.
Any other questions for the tax administrator? All right. Informal comments have ended. Okay. All right. I saw several people with their hands up. Go ahead, ma'am.
I was just wondering if people could put up phone numbers and contact information, because I just don't know who to contact. Is it possible we can get that information, just basic stuff like phone numbers?
County manager.
Yes, so our website is personcountync.gov, and there's a departmental listing, and there is a website for the tax administrator's office, and that would be under the government heading. There's information on that website about the appeal process. There's contact information for our tax staff. There's also information about the tax relief and exemptions that the county offers. So there's quite a bit of information on the website, and our staff is very much there and available throughout the week to talk with people who have any questions. So please feel free to call them or email them for more information and assistance.
Gentleman in the back.
Last year was $5 billion in valuations. What did it come up this year?
So we don't know that number yet because we're just starting to work on appeals. we'll have some numbers before the budget retreat,
Okay.
because we gotta have something to look at, but I don't have those ready tonight. Can I make
sir.
one comment about the contact information? You can file the appeals or questions by tax@PersonCountyNC.gov. It's the email address that many staff are monitoring. A phone number for the tax office, 336-322. I think it's 6111. It's on your appeal form. We've got like 6 people that will ring all at one time, and the first person who grabs it gets to talk to you. Very helpful staff. It's my staff. It's a reappraisal firm. They'll tell you how to fill the form out. They'll tell you what information is helpful. They'll help you understand how to read your tax card. We missed a few calls on Friday because we had several other deadlines on Friday, but today I don't know that we missed a single phone call.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Did you say that if you consider the percentage of increase of your taxes is not a reason for appeal?
So if your only appeal is mine went up more than someone else's, that is not a valid appeal
For informal.
for any appeal at any level. And that's, so mine went up more than yours did. Doesn't give us anything that, because yours may be more valuable today and yours is less valuable because it wasn't maintained, it may be a different part of town. So you may have added something to yours, you may have taken something away from the other. So saying mine went up more than someone else's is not a valid reason for an appeal. Every appeal comes in, even if it just says went up too much, we're gonna review what we can get our hands on. So if you said went up too much, we're still gonna look at it, but you gave us very little to go on. But we're gonna try. We're gonna double check everything that we have on record. Even if it says, oh, it went up too much, that's the reason I'm appealing. We're gonna double check it, but give us a little bit extra. Give us something to look at. Let me know your neighbor's house sold for a different price and theirs is similar to yours. That is very helpful. Land values, all real estate values are up for appeal. So we're gonna, when you come in and say my land, absolutely. And that's a good time to have that conversation about an old farm building that's gone that I don't know is gone, that you could report every January so we know to take it off. We wanna fix that. I don't wanna charge you for anything you don't have. No tax office in the state wants to do that.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it. All right. Item number 7, discussion adjustment approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Well, here, is it appropriate for the commissioners to make some comments?
I've made my comments, but other commissioners feel free to.
Okay. I just want to say that I appreciate those who said, you know that we're in a hard spot. This is not an us against them, and I hope you'll see it that way. My husband and I pay property taxes and have for over 20 years. Ours went up ranging from 20% to 141%. I heard somebody say that they felt like a prisoner, but there's many ways in which we feel that way too, with mandates for the things that we have to pay with tax money that are state mandated to the county. I hope that everybody will not only follow this process with the tax rate being set, but also the entire budget process, because that's where you'll find out what your services are that you're paying for. And when we consider what the rate is, we will probably need to be considering feedback on what services you would want to see cut and what services that cannot be cut because they're passed on to us from the state. So I thank everybody for being here and being engaged, and I encourage you to continue to be engaged throughout the whole process. There's more to it than setting the tax rate. There's all the things that go into the budget.
Any other commissioners?
I concur with. I'm Commissioner Wilburn, for the sake of time.
And like I said, and I agree with her also, and my email and phone number is open to anyone. If you have some concerns about something, and if you feel your issue isn't being addressed, feel free to reach out to me, and I will do my best to respond to you, and so we can get some type of reconciliation.
And I'll concur with everyone else. Last year we raised the taxes 0.0025. And that was solely to fund $30 million to the schools, to fix the schools. So this board does not want to raise taxes. We try our best not to raise taxes. And I think this current board's gonna do the exact same thing, if not lower, so.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to transition into the other items on our agenda for tonight. Thank you. Okay. All right, item 7, discussion, adjustment, approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, there was one change made to the budget amendment number 14 that the manager placed at our seats. So with that, one adjustment, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with the presented adjustments. Any further discussion? All right, having hearing none. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion's approved. All right, item 8B, Person County Public Library NC Collection Project. Mr. Yeager?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Do they have their presentation? Oh, thank you. So this is just a quick presentation on the proposal for the project from the library. So the Person County, North Carolina Historical Collection is comprised of tax, death, and census data and other items related to genealogy to the citizens of Caswell, Person, and Orange County. Some of those documents go back as far as 1771. So the original collection, if you're looking at the images, the top image, which is presently in office, was the original location of that collection. On the bottom, you can see there's I think there's 10 metal cases. They're about 6 feet tall, 3 feet wide. The original space was not ADA compliant, and in 2023, the previous director completed an ADA assessment of the building, and it was decided to move the present collection into its present location in the gallery space, which is in the building. That present space serves a multi-purpose. It is a meeting room. It is our programming space. It's also the historical collection and access to that. And because it's a multi-use space, it is very limited for people to get into that room and to use it to do the work that they would like to do, to learn about their families or the other citizens or historical documents of Person County. Also, presently, the collection space is only on a reservation process, so you can only do it like one person at a time because of the limited use of the space. So one of the solutions that was come up with is that we decided this is the front entryway of the building. If you come in through the front door and if you look immediately to your right, that is this area that's on display in the top upper left corner. It was the construction of a 20 by 10 aluminum 3-sided enclosure, which would allow us to move the collection from the gallery space onto the floor and provide unfettered access to citizens that would like to use the materials in the collection. And that's just a quick 3D of the space. So the other item that we're asking for is a microfilm and microfiche machine. There is a large backlog of old newspapers, historical newspapers that we have in the system, but our present machine is broken. It no longer works, and we originally were going to try to buy a used machine, but that didn't fall. That kind of fell through as well. So we're hoping that maybe we can get a new machine that's up to date. It has the ability for someone to, if they don't want to print it, they can scan the documents themselves, send it to themselves. And then it also comes with software. It's called Family Search, which is a sister program to Ancestry.com. So altogether, the enclosure is $13,350.79. The microfilm machine is $8,300, and then an installation for the enclosure comes at $9,790 for a grand total of $31,440.79.
And we also have the chairman of the library board with us as well. Do you have any comments on the collection? Would you like to make anything, or?
Well, thank you, board, for hearing our presentation, and Ron is doing a great job. We do need the space, and I believe that the enclosures that he talked about will address that situation.
Thank you. And I will say that I do agree with the library board. It was a unanimous vote for recommendation. They have really never asked for anything, but I think this is warranted, and it does address some concerns that have been ongoing for quite some time at the library. Now, the big question is, how do you pay for it? I would recommend using a portion of the rescue funds on that, because this is preserving history. And a couple years ago, with the Register of Deeds, we spent some of that money to have the records digitized and what was needed to maintain the preservation of historic documents with Mercer County. And I think this falls in the same boat. So with that being said, I will make a motion to appropriate those funds to have this project move forward. All right. There's a motion on the floor at the time. Is there any discussion?
How much is in that fund, by chance?
So with the remaining funding in the American Rescue Plan, funding that has not already been assigned, if you were to allocate this $31,441, there would be $604,433 remaining that has not been identified for a specific use.
Okay.
We still have funding that has not yet been spent, but we're reserving it for a specific purpose.
Absolutely. All right. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item 8C, appointments to the Special Board of Equalization and Review. Mr. Jones.
So just a brief description of what Board E&R is. So back in 2013, the Board of Commissioners decided that instead of hearing the appeals themselves, they wanted a special board to do it. That it was established that will be a 4-year term, 5 members, 3 alternates, with the board selecting a chair. We have reached out to all the current members to see if they're willing to continue to serve. We actually still have 2 charter members, if that's the right term, who are still on there. And all the ones who are currently getting ready to expire are willing to reserve. So I'm asking the board to go ahead and appoint so we can have some meetings with get a calendar straight for the Board E&R members, and we can start advertising when they will accept appeals.
All right. Can you name the 5 full-time members?
Currently, Margaret Bratcher, Commissioner Kyle Pereira, former Commissioner David Newell, a new member, Larry King, and Jay Poindexter was a real estate agent.
Okay.
And my alternates are, we only had 2 on, even though we had 3 spots, PJ Gentry
And Derek Sims.
Thank you. I couldn't pull it off the website.
And they were strictly on there because they were commissioners at the time on it.
So the idea at the beginning was to take former commissioners because they had experience as being E&R board members. So they had had that responsibility before. It's not in our resolution that it has to be a county commissioner.
Yes.
As apparent by Jay
That was the
Poindexter
original intent.
and Larry King. So we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think the requirement is they must live in the county, must be over 21 years old, must be current on their own taxes, and that's pretty much it. We'd love to have someone who has real estate experience, a fee appraiser, a lawyer, something like that, but it is a huge time commitment in every appraisal year.
Members of the board, I've talked to each one of you and asked if you had an interest in serving as an alternate. At this time, Commissioner Wilburn has expressed interest. I will ask again, is there any interest from the other board members on that?
We know, in the past, we have done them in mornings during the week. However, much as I hate to say it, if the board wanted to meet at night, that's not a requirement by this resolution or by the state that we meet a certain time. I don't know how we would juggle our regular work and meet at after hours, but it would definitely we could entertain a couple of nights, and that would be the board's decision. But we could have some night meetings.
I don't
make it
think
easier.
we've ever had a.
We never had one after
one.
hours, and that would be a struggle for my staff. So we got to work all day,
Yeah.
then we got to. But that's the board sets their schedule.
And I've had a couple of residents that have showed interest in this position. As you said, you have gone away from it. So
Even after tonight, they're willing to serve. I'm proud of
yeah,
them.
they're
Very
willing
proud
to
to have
serve. They're willing to serve.
Very.
So I'm in favor of keeping the original five full board members on there as is. But I think it's prudent to remove former Commissioner Sims and former Commissioner Gentry. Commissioner Wilburn would like to serve on it, and there's two more citizens who are very interested in serving on the committee, Susan Laws and Frank Stoltzman. So, members of the board, I will make a motion that we approve keeping the 5 full board members, removing the 2 existing alternates, and adding Commissioner Wilburn and Susan Laws and Frank Stoltzman as alternates to the Board of ENR.
Chairman, could you also, in that motion, designate your chair? And the resolution didn't require a vice chair, but in case the chair that you select is not available, could we have a vice chair selected?
Absolutely. And so the chair has always been, since its inception, Margaret Bratcher. And so I would recommend Margaret Bratcher remain as chair of the ENR board, and let my motion reflect that, Madam Clerk. All right?
Now, the vice chair, is there, that's a new one I threw on you. We'll get past tonight and figure it out?
We'll get past tonight and
Okay.
let's get that board's opinion on that.
I would hate to cancel all the appeals because Ms. Bratcher wasn't able to attend.
Yeah.
I think we winged it one year and let Commissioner, Sam Kennington fill
Yes.
in once.
Yes.
But it wasn't really something this board decided, so if you want to have a vice chair, I would rather y'all make that decision rather than us doing it on the fly.
Okay. I think we need to panel that board and see who would be the second most available person.
Very understandable,
on
yes, sir.
that. All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All right, having hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion's approved. And now we have a motion to approve reimbursement rate. I believe there was I'll let the county manager speak to that.
So currently, the reimbursement rate has been set at $150 per meeting for members of the Board of Equalization and Review, and it has been $50 per meeting if the member was also serving as a county commissioner. So we have budgeted at that rate to support that expenditure in this fiscal year, and it is up to the board to set the rate.
Well, I'm fine with that. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and it's a lot of time and a lot of responsibility. So I'm fine with that, but I think we need to amend the resolution to remove pay for a county commissioner of $50.
I agree.
And so, so only the board members, non-commissioners, will be reimbursed for attending the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and
Would-
so.
Are
go
you
ahead.
going to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's my motion for the amendment of the resolution. Any further discussion? All right. Having heard none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion's approved. All right. Item 8D, appointments to boards and committees. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I would like to present citizen applications for current vacancies for the Local Emergency Planning Committee, which is the LEPC, for nominations and appointment as the board deems appropriate. So I'm going to break this into 2 categories for you. The first being, we have positions available for the following: law enforcement, print media, transportation, local environmental group, Roxborough-Person County Rescue Squad, and economic development. We received the following applications. At your desire, you can choose to do one motion, or we can break it up however the board deems appropriate. We received David Hess, request appointment as representative for law enforcement. Aaron Lappin, request appointment as a representative for the Roxborough-Person County Rescue Squad. Brandy Lynch, request appointment as a representative for economic development. And Kelly Snow, request appointment as a representative for print media.
I think we can accept this all in one motion on that to appoint the, all the candidates that have applied on
Yes,
that.
sir. May I please ask the desire of the board?
All right. We have a motion for approval. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, the, motion's approved.
All right, moving on to the next part, it's still with the Local Emergency Planning Committee. We have 2 positions available for a facility owner-operator. The following applications of interest were received. Tony Creason, request appointment, and Elizabeth Townsend, request appointment. May I please ask the desire of the board?
Motion to approve both. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the motion's approved.
Thank you.
Chairman's report. Would like to thank everyone's patience tonight. I know it was a longer extended period of comment, but it was exceptionally warranted. I hope you took as much feedback away as I have, and we can move forward with this. I think there were some great ideas that were brought in, some concerns that need to be made aware of and that we need to look into. But all in all, I just want to appreciate everyone that came out tonight and spoke. I think it was well worth the time, and again, I do very much appreciate everyone spending their time with us this evening. County Manager.
The end of this week, we plan to open up applications for our Civics Academy. This will be a new offering for Person County government, so we're hoping that we will receive applicants from those who live here in Person County or work here in Person County, applications for those who would like to come and join us for a series of classes to learn more about Person County government and the services that we offer. We hope this will help our residents become more engaged and learn more about the services, and perhaps want to become volunteers for some of our advisory boards and committees or run for office one day. So this will be an opportunity for many of our employees to come and make presentations and interact in this format. So we'll be putting more information out about that. I'd also like to follow up on what was requested earlier as far as working on continuing efforts for education around the reappraisal process. We'll continue to share information over social media, through our website, utilizing the Courier-Times with the great article they did last week, and support going forward. And any suggestions that y'all have as board members, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know what those may be in terms of messaging or other avenues to reach people. And I will work with Russell on other ways that we might be able to structure opportunities for people to come and get assistance. But I do want to remind everyone that our staff is there on the other end of the line. They're checking their email, and they're very much ready to assist with any questions that may arise or any help that anyone needs in filling out applications if they do desire to appeal.
Thank you. All right, Vice Chairman.
Yes, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and expressing their concerns. Of course, a lot of you expressed them through email. We've read all those, and we want to thank you for taking the time. We're on your side on this, and we're going to work on this, and we have our hands full. I want to thank Mr. Jones for coming out and giving his presentation. I mean, it helped a lot. I think a lot of people in this audience had a lot of their questions answered just by his presentation. So I want to thank him for his time. I thank the Sheriff's Department for coming and standing guard for us. So we never know how these meetings turn out. We've been on the tail end of one of them, and we want to thank this one for being civil. So we thank the Sheriff's Department for coming. Also want to congratulate Susan Claire Bailey for winning the North Carolina DYW. It's the first time in 29 years Person County has had a state winner. So congratulations to her this past weekend in Greensboro.
Commissioner Wilburn.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I've already expressed my comments about the appraisal process and how all of that will go forward. Since our last meeting, the EDC did have our first meeting of the year. It was a really good meeting. Commissioner Royster and I attended a 2-day training in Winston-Salem with the School of Government and the Association of County Commissioners about the essentials of county government, and there was a lot of good and pertinent information shared there. This past Friday and Saturday, I attended the 2-day board meeting of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And it's good to be in that environment with the other commissioners from across the state to hear a testimony of, we're not the only ones going through this reval process. And, there are some much higher values that came back in other counties. So we are at least fortunate that we're not looking at some of what some of the other counties are. So there's a lot I'd like to share, but given the time and probably our attention spans, I will save that for a day meeting.
Commissioner Royster?
Again, I would like to, as my colleagues have said, thank everybody for coming out tonight and being patient and hanging around with us to hear what's going on, because we all live in Person County as well. We're taxpayers as well. So we wanted to learn more about this process, and just be patient with this, and let's just, let the process work itself out. While as a group we work towards what's best, what we feel is best for Person County, for you all and us as well. I also want to echo Commissioner Wilburn. It seems like I've been doing that a lot with attending UNC School of Government, Essentials of Government, a lot of information that we learned there, good information as being new county commissioners. And I would like to honor this being the beginning of Black History Month. 3 of our former county commissioners here in Person County, Mr. Curtis Bratcher, who meant a lot to me, who is now deceased, Mr. Johnny Lunsford, and of course our representative Ray Jeffers. So I wanted to just honor them on tonight for this month.
Thank you. Commissioner Allison.
I also want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I know everyone's stressed over these new evaluations. Don't give up on the process. Stay involved. Follow through with the appeals process. Like I said, if you feel you're not being heard, feel free to reach out to me through email or phone. Because I do believe, we need to, we value our tax dollars, and we need to make sure we practice fiscal responsibility with our tax funds. So, like I said, just stay involved and don't give up on the process. I also attended virtually through Zoom my first CARTAR COG meeting the other week. We had to do it virtually due to the weather. It was very informative. I'm looking forward to some more of those. And like I said, just stay involved, and I appreciate everyone for coming out this evening.
Thank you. At this time, do I have a motion to go into closed sessions? Closed session number 1 per General Statute 143-318.11A4 for the purpose of the discussion of matters relating to the location or expansions of industry or other business in the county, economic development, with the following individuals permitted to attend: County Manager Catherine Cathy, Clerk to the Board Michelle Solomon, County Attorney T.C. Morphus Jr., and Economic Development Director Brandy Lynch, followed by closed session number 2 per General Statute 143-318.11A3 for the purpose to consult with the county attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege in matters related to the lawsuits Person County v. Yarborough, with the following individuals permitted to attend: County Manager T.C. Morphus, County Attorney T.C. Morphus, County Manager Catherine Cathy, and Clerk to the Board Michelle Solomon.
Motion to close session.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are now in closed session. Thank you. a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, a motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion's approved. We are adjourned.